So we are here at the Judiciary Committee. It is chaired by Jim Jordan. This is basically like a, it's the same thing that they do in Congress. It's just they go on the road and they wind up, traveling, doing field meetings so that they can go around to different locations. And so we are here to see what they're going to be talking about as far as the border goes. They have a lot of people testifying today. One of them would be a mother that was on the school bus. I mean, a mother of a son who was on the school bus that was attempting to be entered by the illegals. And then Corey Godero, and then several other people. I'm not quite sure who they are at this moment, but we will find out. So this will be a very interesting meeting to see really what they say about what's going on the border. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they talk about and kind of the way they talk about it. So continue to stay with us live as we are going to be covering this so that you guys can have firsthand experience of what's actually happening. It will be starting at 9 a.m., so we have about just 35 minutes or so before it starts. And we'll kind of see what we can bring you afterwards as well, who we can speak to and get a statement from. And but this should be very interesting. So I'm glad that we are able to participate and bring this to you guys live, so you can be here with us.
So just from the input when we were going to the parks and we interviewed some of the migrants, and these are supposed to be, so no families, just
I wonder if
single.
you've been there. It's south of the Navy Hospital over by Balboa. There's a big building that they've heard there's like bad stuff going on there where the illegals are being put. It's all fenced
Off
off.
of Balboa?
It's a tent city, it's essentially what it is.
Oh, and it's all illegals there? Really?
Yeah.
Well, because I know they were down at Cesar Chavez Park, and then
They're gone.
they're
So
gone
we
from
went
there.
we went to Cesar Chavez Park just the day after they left. They're still so we don't have very many whistleblowers in DHS, but we do have a few people that are talking.
That's all you need. You
Yeah,
just need
a few. Yeah. So are you with Are you in DHS? No. Okay.
No, I'm a retired Air Force,
Okay.
and work for Liberty University, and then I also work. I'm a China guy. I work for a think tank in DC, dealing with China.
So good. We need more like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Retirement. Because I haven't heard of this one that he's talking about.
No.
And I didn't bring any cards, so.
If I give you my number and you can text it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep.
And then I can send it to you, Audra.
Yeah. Please.
So I had one article go up in January in Providence magazine. Okay. Right, so let me put that in.
Do you have an extra pen? I thought I had one and I left it in the car. And then anything, like if you get any leads or you hear anything, and I am an iron trap when it comes to keeping people anonymous and confidential, protected.
Yeah.
But anything that you hear that you think is valuable for me to know.
This is a mobile?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. cartels look down on the child traffickers.
Right.
So
Bye.
This is a Judiciary Committee meeting. This is a field meeting that they come to. They travel around many times to go to locations. In fact, they've been to Arizona, Chicago, New York, Texas, and they're here in California right now to be addressing the border crisis, and this is the California perspective, so there will be different people testifying coming up, many locals that are affected by what's actually going on. We have Corey Godero, he actually lives out in Boulevard. There is a mother, Miss Cardinal, who her son actually rides the bus, or rode the bus that was attempted to be entered by the illegals, and has since not wanted to ride the bus anymore out of fear. And his mother was actually a student on the same, she used to ride the same bus to school in Hamul. So it's, you know, one generation to the next is being affected by this invasion that we have ourselves in. There's several others that have been called to testify, so it'll be interesting to see what they have to say. They were saying that no Democrats are really going to be coming here, which is interesting because, you know, but it just shows the climate that we're in. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's being said, what kind of testimonies are going to come forward, so that we can share this with you. Thank you for joining us live. I hope you guys stay with us the entire time. We are inside the Santee City Hall, and the room is pretty packed. It's filling up very quickly, and they will be starting within the next couple of minutes. So stay tuned, and we'll see what kind of statements or testimonies that we can get outside of that from individuals who are actually testifying and other people who are part of Congress and whatnot. So thank you guys for joining us. Stay tuned.
Hey, I have your mic off, so if you want to come in, you gotta tell me I gotta turn it on.
All right, Nicole's gonna go for your sucks.
Yes, we're bringing it.
The committee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone here today to this hearing on California's perspectives of the Biden-Harris border crisis. The chair will now recognize the gentlelady from, the gentleman for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somewhere in my notes, it's going to say that this is not an audience participation type of a hearing, but the appropriate hurrah or hoorah, depending upon your branch, is always accepted. I'll now recognize myself for a short opening statement. The House Judiciary Committee has, for the last 2 years, gone around the country trying to gain a perspective on the growing crisis. In each location, whether it's Texas, Arizona, all the way up in Ohio, Maine, or here on the border of California, we have sought to find individuals who will understand and who are impacted by it. Today we are pleased to have Mayor John Minto, the City Manager Maureen Best, and the entire City of Santee staff at the hearing. Santee is a border community, as is El Cajon, Chula Vista, and Alpine, and many other cities in and around my district. They know firsthand the impact. We also have representatives of law enforcement, not from the border, but the border doesn't end just at the line between Mexico and the United States. We're pleased to have Undersecretary Sharp, who is from what wouldn't be considered a border district, except in Riverside, we actually have a secondary border crossing that every day deals with people who get past the first border, and that number continues to grow. This hearing has the purpose to highlight the unique challenges we face in San Diego and, as I said, Riverside communities as a result of the unprecedented border crisis which began in 2021 and today has displaced what would otherwise be openings in housing and jobs of more than 14 million Americans. Illegal immigration is something that is used lightly. We're not using it lightly. The fact is that there are, among the millions who have come here illegally, there are people legitimately seeking asylum. There are people who legitimately, more than 1 million a year, who have gone through the process to come to America legally. It is our goal to restore the rule of law and to, in fact, recognize that we can have immigration in our country, we can have prosperity for all, but we can only do so if we can control our borders. Today we will also become acutely aware further of the impact of crime, whether it's the growth of illicit drugs, including fentanyl, or the border crime now that goes back and forth, including the trade in human trafficking. This hearing will tell the truth directly from people who will testify as to their experience of what the difference between the last administration and the policies of the last 3.5 years and how they have influenced them. On day one of the administration halted border security. As a matter of fact, I was a witness 4 years ago to the administration stopping the construction of the last phases of the new border here. And as a result, the border fence was not completed, and even today is not completed, but was not continued as the materials rusted and the world became aware you could just walk into America. We will try to keep decorum here. We will try to make this not partisan. But there's no question at all, there's a right direction and a wrong direction. And it's clear, we'll hear from the testimony today, that we've been going in the wrong directions. Too many stories for too long have not been told. It's the reason we brought people here today. And I want to note that none of our witnesses are in fact political appointees. None of our witnesses here today are per se partisans. We have nonpartisan mayors, we have our district attorney, we have people who in fact represent people without a partisan persuasion, and in fact whose only interest is the welfare of their community and the safety of that community. And with that, with that, I got to the right page. With that, I'm going to extend my warm welcome to everyone in the audience, and thank you for being here. The fact is, being witnesses to our witnesses is just as important, both here and around the world. And with that, I'd like to introduce our panel, distinguished panel of witnesses. The Honorable Michael Hestron has served as the District Attorney of Riverside County since 2015. Prior to that, he was a line prosecutor in the District Attorney's Office for over 20 years. The Riverside County District Attorney's Office, under his leadership, prosecutes fentanyl dealers aggressively and even charges them with murder if evidence supports such a charge. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Arizona and a law degree and master's degree in Latin American studies from Stanford. Mayor John Minto is the longtime resident of San Diego area and is the mayor of our host city. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in his seat. Mayor Minto had 29 years as a San Diego police officer prior to his work. He worked at San Diego Gas and Electric. The mayor was first elected to Santee City Council back in 2002 and has served as mayor for the last 8 years. He serves on the San Diego Association of Governments and the League of California Cities Board of Directors. Mayor John Franklin is the mayor of the city, again, a little further from the border, of the city of Vista, of which I was a longtime resident. He was first elected to the Vista City Council in 2014 and has served as mayor since 2022. He is the owner of a family business, worked in the United States House of Representatives for 2 members of Congress. Mayor Franklin holds a bachelor's degree from American University. And I might comment that Mayor Franklin has also been one of the leading innovators in how to deal with homelessness in and around his city, and I think all of us are aware of his work. Undersecretary Don Sharp has served in the Riverside County Sheriff's Office since 1996 after several years in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, which, if I'm correct, that's the largest sheriff's department in the country, and now you have the second largest. He has been a patrol officer, a field training officer, a member of multiple narcotics teams, a sergeant, chief deputy, and has served as undersecretary or under sheriff since 2019. He holds a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and is a graduate of the Sherman Block Supervisorial Leadership Institute, and we welcome him. Mr. Corey Godero is a founding member of the nonprofit GOAT, GOAT for short, an initiative which aims to combat human trafficking along the Mexican border through comprehensive intelligence gathering and strategic collaboration with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. Mr. Godero began his career in the United States Army as a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter crew chief and door gunner. I might note, the most dangerous position to stand in. He then served as a respiratory therapist before beginning his work with the nonprofit. Lastly, Ms. Nicole Carteret, I'm going to mess this up, I know it. Cardinale is a mother, a wife, a Navy veteran, and a resident here of Dulusa, California. She currently works in the medical field and is vice president of the Hamul Little League Board of Directors. Her son plays baseball, and I might note she's very valiantly come forward to talk to us today about direct history herself of growing up along the border and of what her child has faced just recently at the border. We welcome all our witnesses for appearing today. We would, under the rules of the committee, begin by asking all of you to rise, raise your right hand to take the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that your testimony you give today will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. For all of you who may not have testified before, we do limit opening statements to 5 minutes. We then try to limit as much as we can our questions to being questions. However, anything that you have done in the way of a prepared written statement or any additional collateral information you want us to have will be included in the record. So you can summarize or even go off script. The important thing is we want to hear from you, and your entire testimony will be in the record. We will now begin with our district attorney. I'm not sure we've got your mic on. If you've got a green, you're good.
There we go. Thank you. Chairman Issa and distinguished committee members, thank you for coming to San Diego to address important public safety and border security. My name is Mike Hestron, and I'm the elected district attorney of Riverside County, serving in that role since 2015. Riverside County, located to the east of Los Angeles and north of San Diego County, is not on the U.S.-Mexico border, but is significantly impacted by border issues, particularly drug trafficking and illegal immigration. Due to its proximity to border-adjacent counties, Riverside County is heavily affected by the movement of drugs such as fentanyl. Several major freeways in Riverside County are known as drug trafficking corridors, providing direct routes from the border to Southern California and beyond. Interstate 15 in particular serves as a critical north-south corridor for traffickers moving illicit drugs from the border area through our communities and then further on into the United States. To combat this threat, law enforcement agencies like the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol actively monitor these corridors and conduct interdiction operations. For example, on August 20th, U.S. Border Patrol agents from the Newton Azraq Border Patrol Station confiscated 81 pounds of cocaine during a traffic stop on Interstate 15 in Temecula. The Newton-Azrac Border Patrol Station, located in Murrieta, also in Riverside County, and overseen by the San Diego Sector Patrol, reported seizing 2,437 pounds of cocaine this fiscal year, an increase of 300 pounds from the previous year. Agents also confiscated 3,627 pounds of methamphetamine, 31 pounds of heroin, and 475 pounds of fentanyl. On a national level, the data from the Department of Homeland Security shows that fentanyl seizures have risen dramatically. In fiscal year 2021, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized over 11,000 pounds of fentanyl, nearly double the amount seized in 2020. And this we're seeing all across Riverside County. Our seizures are going up significantly. Fentanyl smuggling across the U.S.-Mexico border has profoundly impacted Riverside County with significant increases, as I just said, in drug seizures. The state's southern border has become a critical entry point for fentanyl entering the U.S., largely driven by the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels, which dominate the Mexican states adjacent to California. Although we know the quantity of fentanyl seized, we don't know how much gets passed and how much gets in. But we can only assume that those numbers are incredibly large. The devastating impact of fentanyl on Riverside County is clear. In 2016, the county had only 2 fentanyl-related deaths. Since 2020, these deaths have increased 1,291% just in Riverside County. In collaboration with law enforcement agencies, the District Attorney's Office investigates every fentanyl death as a potential homicide. Beginning in 2021, we were the first District Attorney's Office to file murder charges under the unique circumstances of charging second-degree murder for fentanyl-related death. One such case, People versus Romero, resulted in a conviction of second-degree murder with a sentence of 15 years to life in prison. Despite our efforts, fentanyl remains a pervasive public safety threat in Riverside County. Our office leads the state in these prosecutions, and we're proud to do so. We have more than 30 fentanyl-related homicide charges that we have filed since 2021. However, it is not enough to combat fentanyl locally. After it has already entered our communities and causes the death and destruction of the people that live in Riverside County. Fentanyl production begins in Mexico, where it's manufactured by Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels in covert, unsanitary labs. The cartels are expanding their marketing of fentanyl to children via social media apps. They produce counterfeit pills, and they're lacing all other drugs in Riverside County with fentanyl. In 2021, 4 out of 10 illicit pills, found on our streets contain fentanyl. That number has now risen to 7 out of 10. The Mexican drug cartels recently attempted a public relations campaign by calling for a ban on fentanyl in Mexico, including hanging banners in Sonora and Baja California. However, this is merely a distraction tactic. Ongoing seizures and fentanyl-related deaths show that production and trafficking of fentanyl into our country and into our county has not ceased. It's not diminished. The failure to control the illegal border crossings and address the influx of fentanyl into the U.S. is taking a devastating toll on the people of Riverside County. We urgently need comprehensive and tough federal action and robust initiatives to address this issue effectively. We need stronger border policies, enhanced law enforcement, and other measures that are essential to curbing fentanyl trafficking, which is fueling a crisis across the country and certainly in Riverside County. This fight cannot be waged by local officials alone. We need resources and enforcement at the borders to stop this lethal threat before it reaches our communities, before it takes its toll on our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Minto.
Good morning, Chairman.
Same thing, and this is your courtroom.
I want to see if you're paying attention, sir. Good morning, Chairman and committee members. Welcome to the City of Santee. We appreciate this opportunity for the committee to hear our region's concerns. The Biden-Harris administration approach to border security and immigration has significantly impacted California, with San Diego County at the forefront of these challenges. Between September 2023 and May 2024, San Diego County received between 125,000 and 154,000 street releases of migrants. Many were placed on a trolley and sent and released into East County. These numbers are based on daily reports to the county's Economic Development and Government Affairs Office. These unofficial figures underscore the unprecedented and grave scale of the region's border crisis. The influx of migrants has strained local resources, including overcrowding at local hospitals, prompting San Diego County officials to respond with a coordinated effort involving federal, state, and regional support. In response to the San Diego County Board of Supervisors allocated $6 million in Federal American Rescue Act funding to establish a migrant center processing in San Diego. This center, which operated from October 2023 to February 2024, served as a temporary and stopgap solution to help manage the influx of migrants and mitigate the impact on local communities. During its operation, the center processed over 80,000 individuals, of whom 99% continued their journey to reunite with sponsors throughout the United States. The services provided at the center were critical in facilitating onward travel. They included translation assistance, transportation services, and access to communication tools and Wi-Fi to connect with U.S. sponsors. The temporary center was instrumental in providing much needed support to individuals released by Customs and Border Protection. It helped reduce the number of street releases directly into local communities, alleviating some of the immediate pressure on public safety and community resources. However, the center's closure in February 2024 left San Diego County in dire need of more sustainable, long-term solutions to manage the migrants, underscoring the critical importance of strategic planning and foresight. To address these ongoing crises, our region secured a $19.6 million grant from FEMA to support its response to the migrant influx. This funding is in addition to a $19 million already granted to Catholic charities, reflecting the critical need for resources to handle the situation effectively. The funds are being used to establish a migrant transit day center operated by Jewish Family Services. The center will offer essential services to migrants released from the Department of Homeland Security custody. The services will provide and include temporary shelter, legal assistance, travel coordination, and other forms of support to facilitate safe and organized transitions for migrants as they continue their journey in the United States. The situation underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive, long-term strategy with improved coordination between federal, state, and local governments and nonprofit organizations. I hope this emphasis on urgency demonstrates the gravity of the situation. So in conclusion, San Diego County's response to the border crisis highlights the critical role that local governments play in addressing the challenges associated with increased immigration. County supervisors, mayors, and city councils continue to work together in efforts to provide essential services and support migrants, demonstrating a strong commitment to humanitarian assistance and public safety. I want to reassure you that the region is dedicated to moving forward. Our success relies upon continued collaboration and adequate funding. San Diego County remains resilient in the face of these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go to Mayor Franklin, and I want to note, thank you so much for being with us yesterday to see the fentanyl and drug blocker. You and the minority leader were very helpful to be in attendance. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. That was indeed informative and educational to see an entire warehouse full of seizures as part of the regular drug traffic coming across our border. My name is John Franklin. I'm the mayor of the city of Vista in northern San Diego County. Vista is known as the climatic wonderland. It's a beautiful city with middle class and working class families. We're also a community made up overwhelmingly of immigrants. 50% of the people in my city are of Latino or Hispanic origin. Nearly a third speak Spanish and 13% speak only Spanish. I believe that America is and must always remain a beacon of hope for immigrants from all around the world. We honor our immigrant heritage and we welcome those who come to our country to contribute to our society. We recognize our obligation to mankind to provide safe harbor for those who are persecuted in their home countries and have legitimate asylum claims. I fully support those who come here lawfully. The United States of America affords more opportunities for lawful immigration than the rest of the nations of the world combined. But we also have a right to expect that the persons in our society abide by our laws. The President is required by the Constitution to take care to faithfully execute the laws. Unfortunately, President Biden and Vice President Harris have decided to ignore our border and immigration laws. And I want to tell you today what the Biden-Harris open border has done to my community. The San Diego County Medical Examiner reported recently 1,203 people died last year of drug overdose. That is double the rate from just a few years ago. Fentanyl is being smuggled across our border by the drug cartels every single day, yet the administration refuses to take decisive action. One of these victims was my own friend's son. He died taking what he thought was Adderall. He bought it from a dealer whose product has certainly killed others. We're also dealing with high rates of crime. Statistics on crimes committed by illegal immigrants in California are not available because, unlike in Texas, California state policymakers refuse to allow our local law enforcement to collect these data. But over 441,000 criminal non-citizens were booked into Texas jails in recent years, including more than 542,000 criminal offenses recorded by non-citizen criminals. Those included 1,000 homicide charges, 69,000 assault charges, 9,700 for burglary, 63,000 for drug charges, 1,200 for kidnapping, 27,000 for theft, 42,000 for obstruction of police activities, 3,000 for robbery, 6,800 for sexual assault, 7,800 for sexual offenses, and 6,600 for weapons charges. The San Diego border sector receives approximately 26% of the traffic that the Texas sector does, so we can extrapolate that tens of thousands of crimes are committed in our community, the same as in Texas, that would not have occurred if we had a secure border. In Vista, I organized an anti-retail theft task force to address the epidemic of shoplifting that we're facing in our community. As we arrested shoplifters, we discovered that these are not people in need. These are people who are part of organized criminal organizations. They're stealing compact valuables that they can easily convert to cash. Several of the stores in my community, including some grocery stores and drugstores, have been forced to close in the last couple of years, creating food deserts in working class communities. Another impact of the open border. Illegal workers are driving down the wages of American citizens. They take jobs, often that pay below market rate, and work without the protection of our U.S. labor laws. I want to make a point that illegal labor is unfair to our American workers, and it is also unfair to illegal laborers. I've toured our open and porous border numerous times in recent years, and I've watched with puzzlement when the Biden-Harris administration took office as the prefabricated sections of the border fence remained on the ground and rusted and laid to waste after President Biden and Vice President Harris refused to complete the fence, leaving some 37 holes in the San Diego border sector, through which, as you saw in your tour yesterday, people walk through every day by the thousands. I have seen, as you probably saw yesterday, the discarded ladders. So when we talk about people buying a taller ladder to climb over that fence, I hear that, but I also hear from U.S. Border Patrol agents directly that the wall is a force multiplier, allowing just several agents to patrol a mile of walled border where hundreds are required to patrol a mile of open border. A nation without borders is no nation at all. We must always be a nation that honors our heritage as a land of immigrants, but also one that expects everyone in our society, including newcomers, to abide by our laws equally. I call today on President Biden and Vice President Harris to enforce and uphold our border, to secure our border, and enforce our laws for the safety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff Sharp.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman Issa, members of the committee. As Undersheriff of Riverside County, the 4th largest county in the state and 10th largest county by population in the United States, serving more than 2.5 million residents, our agency covers this expansive region with a staff of over 4,100 who are dedicated to serving citizens of the communities with integrity and professionalism. Riverside County neighbors the border counties in California. We are a major artery of highways utilized by cartels and other bad actors to facilitate the trafficking of narcotics and human smuggling to other major cities and criminal hubs across the state and nation. In Riverside County alone, our narcotics investigation unit seized 359 pounds of fentanyl and over 2.3 million fentanyl pills in 2023. This does not cover other multi-agency task forces or other police agencies in the county. This is a staggering statistic of poison seized. What did we miss? We know we missed plenty. The current border crisis sanctioned by this administration has impacted all areas of the country. I spent over 10 years of my career in the assignment of narcotics enforcement. Our communities today are facing an unbelievable flow of fentanyl and fentanyl-laced drugs to suppliers, dealers, and tragically addicted individuals. Our deputies and emergency response personnel respond to dozens of overdoses and overdose fatalities daily. The flood of deadly fentanyl to our streets is overwhelming and only made possible by complete border security failures under the current administration. I frequently must answer questions as to what we in law enforcement are doing to combat this fentanyl epidemic. I have toured the border and spoken to my U.S. Border Patrol partners. They are overwhelmed by the task of dealing with illegal migrants flooding our border. They have had to abandon their normal duties of protecting our borders from criminal smuggling, instead babysitting the flood of unvetted migrants knocking down our doors. I have always known in working narcotics and analyzing cartel actions that the price of drugs go down and the shipments across the border grow larger with weak border protection. When our Border Patrol agents are diverted from their proper duties and the border is wide open, there will always be larger drug and human smuggling loads. The risk of detection and loss of illicit contraband becomes less, and the shrinking risk easily worth the reward of cartels and criminals. When border security is strong and robust, we see smaller loads and more fearful cartels, as they should be when breaking our laws and harming society. The problem must be corrected immediately, including the apprehension of dangerous substances and criminals that have already crossed our open borders. In Riverside County, we are on the forefront of the movement of humans being exploited and victimized in sex and labor trafficking. We often hear on the news of migrants paying thousands of dollars to get passes to the United States. Paying does not mean paid up front. Many are brokered into deals of slavery by means of labor and sex trafficking. The lack of true vetting of the adults bringing a child into our country is horrific. The current administration could be complicit in the delivery of a child into the sex trafficking world. The thought of compassion and humanitarian passage often, not is all what we have to deliver as a country. The current administration emboldens the cartels to send misinformation and promises of funding and a better life to potential migrants, and the cartel can now exploit them for their own criminal gain. These policies create victims more often than the humanitarian effort promised. We are fearful of the current open border policies have allowed for many to enter our country with the intent to carry out terrorist acts. Our region is a frequent destination for current and past presidents and government VIPs. Our concerns have grown to the possibility these terrorists may target our region in an effort to disrupt government and U.S. leadership. As a member of the law enforcement community making policy decisions, I am sick of battling the deeply flawed changes being made in California by California politicians and the current presidential administration. Drugs, human trafficking, and the unknown number of terrorists and bad actors entering unchecked is eye-opening and terrifying to our citizens. The current administration has lost their understanding of the job of government and public safety. I can only hope and pray the obvious necessary actions needed to protect and strengthen the border are taken seriously and repaired immediately. That our Border Patrol agents are again allowed to do the work they are experts at, and the misguided politics is removed. Weak borders do mean a weak country, one to evade and abuse. I appreciate the opportunity to share my experience and insights as a leader in Riverside County. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Gardner.
Congressman, thank you for prioritizing this critical issue. I'm going to breeze through this because, as my wife and my mom would attest, I have more to say. What has occurred over the past nearly 4 years at the southwest border has led to a crisis that every member of this country should be made aware of. What I've seen in terms of the exploitation of migrants by cartels is horrifying, but awareness of the true crisis at the border must be understood. I have firsthand knowledge of how this crisis is destroying lives because for the last year, I have led an operation and most recently a nonprofit organization in the San Diego County area. San Diego County has become ground zero for the unmitigated incursion into the United States by undocumented migrants being smuggled here by cartels. There's a misconception that the over 10 million undocumented people coming across the border in the last 4 years are just looking for a better life. While that's true in many cases, U.S. government policy at the border is facilitating a multi-billion-dollar smuggling operation by the cartels. The cartels are not simply providing transportation for a cost. They are sexually assaulting women and children. And they're taking the lives of people without any fear of retribution. I grew up in this county. My family's here. My business is here. My friends are here, behind me. And I'm terrified each and every single day by what is happening with no regard for our safety. For the last year, my team and I personally collected hundreds of discarded passports and driver's licenses. I have some here today. From individuals all over the world. Most of these IDs I find are crudely destroyed, lit on fire, ripped apart, or folded and buried. There are thousands of these travel documents blowing around the border, and many people behind me have just as much as I do. We deserve security, we deserve honesty from our government. How have cartels been permitted to act with impunity at our California border for so long? Why are immigration laws not being enforced? Why am I finding the identifications of young children and newborns at the border who are being smuggled and trafficked here on a daily basis? Many of these children come here unaccompanied. This is because the cartels have realized that they can profit through the failed federal government's Office of Refugee Resettlement Program that delivers children to unvetted sponsors that are part of a transnational criminal organization. While on the border, my team located an abandoned cell phone. We accessed the cell phone and discovered it was from someone who traveled from Wuhan, China to San Gabriel, California. I found around 40 different chat groups via an app on the phone that provide instructions on how to get smuggled into the US. The most prominent chat groups are Chinese, but my team has infiltrated Russian, Ukrainian, Azerbaijan, and other Middle Eastern chats as well. The chats do not stop. They run 24/7. They contain a treasure trove of intelligence information. This research has led to chats that are associated with a sophisticated network of CCP operatives working in our country. In addition to coordinates to infiltrate the border, I've discovered detailed information on our country's nuclear posture. My team and I have discovered many cases of sexual assault at the border. The cartels are so emboldened that they leave what they call trophies that depicts the sexual exploitation they are responsible for along the route they smuggle migrants. I have seen it firsthand. My research has uncovered that children who speak a different language arrive with parents who speak a different language that they have. My research has also discovered a case where a Guatemalan national with a counterfeit visa sexually assaulted the child of a local Navy SEAL. I have attempted to share content that I found on the border that is a matter of national security. I've been told that due to the political climate, federal agents would be retaliated against for actively investigating this material. Well, now my stuff's out of order. Again, this is a bipartisan issue. I was told by people a lot smarter than myself to stick to the script, but on my drive here today, I realized that if I stuck to the script, I wouldn't be here. So I'm very confused at things like the DNA program where they would check the DNA of the child and compare it to that of the adult they were with. We're not doing that anymore. The Biden administration did not renew that program. From what I remember, approximately 30% of those children were not related to the people that were coming across us. That's when we were doing the DNA testing. We're no longer doing it. So what's the number now? We have no idea. The people behind me deserve an answer as to why that program was not reinstated. Tim Tebow sat up here and explained that 20,000 kids were missing. Then Tara Rodas came along and explained that 85,000 children were missing, migrant children were missing in this country. I'm here today to explain that we now have approximately 300,000 plus children missing in this country. That is unacceptable, the greatest country in the world. It's unsafe. We need this to be a bipartisan issue, and I know you said this is a bipartisan hearing, Congressman. I don't see any Democrats here.
The chair would note that all members of the committee were invited, and those who were able to make it showed up. But I appreciate your testimony. We'll follow up with questions, and I appreciate your deviating from the script to give us your personal perspective. I think that's extremely important. Mrs. Cardinelli, you're recognized.
Thank you for having me here today. I, Nicole Cardinelli, am fourth generation on our ranch in Dulzura, California. Dulzura is a small rural town on Highway 94, founded in the 1800s. I reside in Dulzura with my husband, son, and my parents. As previously stated, I'm a Navy veteran currently working in medical administration, and I spend my free time volunteering with my son's Little League and other sports. On Wednesday, August 28, 2024, a group of migrants traveling through Dulzura attempted to board the Hamul-Dulzura Union School District's bus transporting young children. One of these young children was my 8-year-old son, Apollo. The children were both confused that a large group of adults were attempting to ride their bus, as well as completely terrified. Upon the investigation from the school, it was discovered that migrants disrupted another bus route the day prior. The school's immediate safety plan included a police and U.S. border agent escort for the bus. While I'm extremely grateful for the swift planning from the school's administration and the law enforcement escorts, this is a very disruptive way for a child to have to start their day. Apollo and other children did not ride the bus for several days after Wednesday's unpleasant incident out of immense fear that migrants would attempt to board his bus again. Many parents like me not only rely on the bus for transportation, but pay a yearly fee for our children to be safely transported to school. That feeling of safety has forever been tarnished for parents as well as the children. A large concern is not all migrants are properly background checked or vetted. How can we be sure that these migrants do not have a criminal record or have ill intent? The children on the bus and the bus driver could have been very seriously injured had these 20 migrants been violent, hostile, or had the motive to enter the bus by force. Living in Dulzura for 24 years, we are not strangers to migrants attempting to use our property to pass through. On many occasions, we have had migrants trespass onto our property to ask us for resources, water, or to offer us money to traffic them to nearby cities. On one horrific occasion, a beloved family horse was released from its corral by migrants crossing through our property. The horse was tragically struck by a vehicle and killed. The sad reality is the bus incident is a small part of a much larger issue. The border crisis has not only become an economic burden to the United States, but it has become a substantial safety concern. It should not take extreme circumstances such as children being injured by administrators to see the problems occurring at the border. The border crisis is detrimental to the well-being of American citizens and our generations to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go in order of seniority, starting with Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here, and thank you to the City of Santee for hosting us, and we appreciate all the folks from the public being here today. And to Mr. Hestron, bear down. And let's talk for a moment about the state's support. Are they supporting you in your effort? Because you're prosecuting as a county attorney state charges of illegal aliens who come into your county and violate the, I assume, the state law. That's where you're focused, right?
Yes.
And is the state of California supporting that effort?
Not at all.
And how about the federal government?
The federal government has been supportive. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District, Martin Estrada, has been. We cooperate with him in his office, and they've been supportive. Federal drug trafficking causing death is a 20-year minimum in prison, and we've had several prosecutions. My office actually embeds a deputy district attorney in the U.S. Attorney's office, and that's how we do the prosecution.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope that you're also able to work with CDP, and I hope that you carry your program out. We have 2 counties, at least 2 counties in Arizona, probably maybe more, but Cochise County, Yuma County, doing the same type of thing, prosecuting the state charges. They might not be getting the assistance from our state either. So maybe state-to-state contact would be helpful. Ms. Cardinale, I just wanted to question, is police escort still necessary for the buses that your son has to travel on?
They have now stopped.
They have not stopped?
They have stopped.
They have now stopped, the
Yes.
police escorts? And is your son back on the bus?
Yes.
Well, we're concerned about that. We're concerned about the safety of not just your son, but all the kids going back and forth to school in this time. And there's lots of questions to ask all of you, and our time's going to go fast. So I wanted to just point out, Mayor Minto, when you talked about the resource center, you were talking about over a 5-month period, that 80,000 people go through there, 99% of which were released into the country. But there were between 125 and 154,000 over about a 7-month period that San Diego, that were released into San Diego County. Is that right?
That's correct. And so if you look at it, the math doesn't really add up.
Right.
We had about 80,000 that made it to that center. And if it hadn't been for having that center and the foresight of our county supervisors to actually put it there, all of them would have been released to the streets and had that negative impact on all of our communities.
And part and parcel of that is because there's so many people that are coming through that are being processed by CBP, detention facilities can't hold them. They're releasing them into the street. And we see the same thing in Arizona, by the way. So what happens is it strains your resources, your local resources, and there's not adequate vetting. Some of you pointed that out, and that's why they're throwing their cards down, because we don't have agreements with many countries on who will actually let us take them back or send them back. So I appreciate your testimony today. Mayor Franklin, we were talking beforehand about these cards that have gone through there, and I appreciate your strong statement because and Sheriff Sharp, because if you don't enforce the law, you cannot get a handle on this very, very serious problem. And I'll just say, Mr. Gabbro, your testimony is enlightening as well. And I want all of you to know I've read all of your testimony, and I just want to make a few comments here. So, to help you understand, so Yuma County is right on the Colorado River between California. I was looking this up here, in 2020, the last year that Donald Trump was the president, that administration, we saw a total of 8,774 encounters in that county, in that sector, in the whole Yuma sector, which is a huge sector. It took only, after the Biden team came on, and I should call it the regime, not the team, by February, you'd already seen them get to 5,000 in 1 month. In March, they had 12,000. They had 12,000 in that March. And there's not been, until, you can go until a couple of months ago, there's not ever been a month under the Biden regime that has been lower than the entire year, last year. And what was that? So I'm sorry, I'm going over, I know you're going to gavel me down. He wants to pull the hook on me. I'm hurrying, Mr. Chairman. Here's the deal.
This is the kinder, gentle barrel. You're just not ready for it. The gentleman may continue for a time.
Yes, I'll hurry. you got in Manhattan, 75% of violent crimes now are reported to be committed by illegal aliens. You've seen what happened in Aurora, Colorado. 2 apartment complexes taken over by Tren de Aragua. So they've done it violently. What did the governor say of Colorado? He said, this is all imagination. It's not real. Don't believe what your lying eyes are telling you. It happened in Chicago recently. 32 armed gang members from that Venezuelan violent gang called Tren de Aragua took over an apartment complex. This is going, it's permeating throughout the country. You're experiencing it here. You're like some of our Arizona counties, which are transit. So these people are coming in and they're going throughout the country. So how do you resolve some of that? I would just say we need to reinstitute Title 42. We need to reinstate MPP. We need to make sure ICE is actually removing the 1.5 million people who have had due process and have removal orders from our courts. This administration won't let them be removed. They need to be removed. We need to find the more than 300,000 children. Now, by the way, when we talk about unaccompanied minors, if you're 17 years old, or if you're 25 and tell them you're 17, you'll be treated as an unaccompanied minor. But so you have a wide range there, but we have misplaced. This administration has misplaced over 300,000. You remember what the media did to the previous administration that misplaced a couple thousand. And they found everyone but about 50 of those. I was on the committee that was investigating that. So I can tell you, DNA testing, we stopped that. We can't vet. So if you've thrown down your ID and you are a blank sheet of paper to the CBP, and you can create a whole new legend for yourself. And we need to have our detention facilities and use those, because if you are removing, you're doing hands-on stopping at the border, and you are detaining people rather than releasing them throughout the U.S., you make the country safer, first of all. But you also stop the incentive factor to come over here. And there's so much more to be said about this, Mr. Chairman. I'm grateful that we're holding this hearing, and thank you for your indulgence. And I have so much more to say on this topic, but I will yield back. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman. We now recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chairman Issa. Certainly appreciate Mayor Minto hosting us here today. This is, I mean, numerous visits to the border since I've been a member of Congress, and you always walk away with a unique experience or something different that makes an impression on you. But everything that I've seen certainly, I think, causes more concern for any of us who find ourselves kind of in a position of either being on Judiciary Committee. I will mention I'm also a member of Financial Services as well, and there is a nexus, believe it or not, between the two committees as we continue to see an infiltration of those that aren't necessarily considered somebody that's just crossing the border for whether it is asylum or even if they say they're here to look for employment or whatever reason they might offer. So this is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger every day that passes. So I represent the far western suburbs of Milwaukee. Still a fairly rural district in Wisconsin, a lot of agricultural related industry in and around there. Still many dairy farms in Wisconsin. And I would say 3 or 4 years ago, we weren't really feeling the impact, I think, certainly not as significant as what we're hearing about today or what I've heard about, whether you're in McAllen, Texas, or if you're in the Tucson sector, which we were a couple months ago, and some of the other border visits that we've done. But I wanted to start with a quick question for the DA. And actually, these are numbers from the U.S. Attorney's Office. In the first 9 months of fiscal year 2022, San Diego and the surrounding area accounted for 60% of all fentanyl seizures nationwide. Not my number. You know, like I said, that's a U.S. Attorney's number. I'm wondering, and based on what we've known before and what we saw yesterday, as the chairman brought up, in the vault, which I've now been able to visit on 2 separate occasions, all the evidence being held related to the Ninth Circuit and the cases that they're prosecuting, managing. This is a great concern, obviously, across the nation. I've got parents that have had children that have died from fentanyl use. Obviously, you know, these stories continue to kind of percolate out there as we hear them, sometimes with a cloud of mystery as to what exactly happened. But District Attorney, can you tell us specifically about what you see related to fentanyl crimes right now?
Yeah, fentanyl is overwhelming Riverside County, just as you mentioned, Congressman. It's pouring in across our southern border, and it's coming through Riverside County. Riverside County is a pass-through to other destinations. Los Angeles is the largest market for illicit drugs, so comes to Riverside County. Many of the drug gangs that use Riverside County as sort of a holding. They'll get homes, fill it up with fentanyl and other drugs, and then ship it out to other parts of the country as the orders come in. They're running a business. The cartels are running a business, and they're essentially using our open border as a business opportunity. The heartbreaking thing, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Congressman, you know, I gave statistics in my opening statement about, you know, the number of deaths going up since 2020, 1,200 some percent. And I always hesitate to do that because it sort of clouds the reality. The reality is that these are real people, real families with a son or daughter that's been taken from them by these criminals. And you know, I can't go anywhere in Riverside County without being stopped by a family that wants to talk to me about and tell me the story of their child being taken from them and cut down in the spring of their life. And what's happening, unfortunately, is that the cartels have moved into the counterfeit pill business. And as I mentioned, 70% of the pills, the illegal pills on our streets, contain fentanyl. And so these people are dying. They think they're taking an Adderall. They think they're taking a Percocet. And obviously we don't condone illegally buying Percocet or Adderall on the internet, but they're being killed, and it's murder. To me, it's murder. I think it should be murder all across this country. A criminal who poisons an American with fentanyl belongs in prison. And what we're seeing is just a wave of these deaths. Last year in 2023, we had 554 deaths in Riverside County fentanyl related. As I said, as recently as 2016, we had 2. And if we didn't have Narcan in the hands of every police officer and sheriff's deputy, you could probably add a 0 to those number of deaths. And so this is a tidal wave of death and destruction that's coming across our open southern border. We have to get a handle on this fast. It's wrecking our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Minto. You talked a little bit about, and I would ask the same type of question to Mayor Franklin, because we're seeing our own communities where there is an absolute depletion of resources related to trying to fight this. And I'm talking about a community in Wisconsin, right? Where there are a number of law enforcement actions related to it. It can be anything from a fender bender in the parking lot, but if you've got an illegal involved in that incident, suddenly it escalates and blooms into a much bigger deal than otherwise it would be. And so specifically for your law enforcement, that portion of your budget, I mean, what kind of constraints and how difficult has that been for you to manage? I'll ask Mayor Minto first and then Mayor Franklin.
I do have to give full disclosure here. We're a contract city with the Sheriff's Department, so we are very fortunate in the fact that we don't always have to come up with extra money out of our budget at our city.
Okay.
And but the question is, what happens at the county level? How much money do they have to come up with? Like I talked a little bit about in my statement, is that if we weren't putting money into these transit centers, then there'd be a lot more money that was needed. When, you know, the DA was actually spot on when he said how impacted we are by not having things like Narcan or some of the other types of drugs. Can you imagine how much money we would have saved and been able to put into other resources if we didn't have to buy all that medicine just to keep people alive who took something that they didn't know what they were taking? That's what's really important. And so for us, we're very fortunate. We don't have to come up with a lot of extra money. And I don't know about the Mayor Franklin, if he has that same type of experience or not, but the only thing we really come up with more money is to, like, for instance, a lot of these people become homeless on our streets.
Yeah.
So we have to address it from that angle.
Right. Chairman, will you indulge Mayor Franklin?
Of course.
Yeah.
So we're also a contract city, but of course we pay $273,000 to the county for each deputy that we employ, and the number we employ is a decision of our council. So we do spend more money on law enforcement than any other budget item. And my city is the single busiest sheriff's station in the entire county of the 12 cities that are policed by the sheriff. We have a major issue with availability of jail beds. And one of the biggest problems that we face is that our deputies and police officers in other parts of the county, when they're making arrests, they don't have the capacity in the jail to jail folks. We've made some really, really horrible decisions as a state, and some bad decisions in the county. AB 109 that released half of our prison population and put about 25% of that population in our county jails has taken beds and space away. But the whole problem of border crime, and as I talked about in my statement, we know that tens of thousands of these crimes are originated by people who are here unlawfully. Clearly is placing a significant burden on all of our law enforcement resources that would not be there if we had a secure border.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll yield back.
Thank you. I recognize the gentleman from Arizona for unanimous consent.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have three articles I'd like to be submitted into the record for by unanimous consent. The first is a piece recently entitled Illegal Alien MS-13 Gang Member Wanted for Murder Found Living in Texas. Second is Kamala's America, a violent Venezuelan mob reportedly beat helpless young man in Dallas parking lot as gunshots are fired. And the third one is from Telemundo. Vinculan con la banda criminal Tren de Aragua al hermano del migrante detenido en Joya por la muerte de una universitaria.
In spite of not knowing what you said, I, without objection, so ordered. Thank you. I'll try to pick up, I'll recognize myself, and pick up a few questions that I think will add to what my two colleagues have already asked about. District Attorney Hester, you're unique in that you prosecuted the deceptive dissemination of what appeared to be a prescription drug to a young woman, a young girl who died as a result of taking just half of that pill. There's a successful prosecution, but there's no specific state law that empowered you to do that. So as I understand, you had to kind of work around to put together the facts so that you could get that second-degree murder charge. Would it be helpful if both the state, in a perfect world, and the federal government, in what we hope will be a fairly perfect world, were to give you specific charges that would allow you to have manslaughter, second-degree murder, whatever is appropriate based on the normal knowledge of somebody who knowingly provides a deceptive drug that leads to a mortality?
Yes, Chairman, it would be incredibly helpful, and I do want to point out that this strategy that we've embarked on a couple of years ago, we have filed 36 homicide cases against drug traffickers for murder, second-degree murder. This has now been sort of emulated by DAs across the state of California. So I was proud to lead that effort. But my colleagues across the state, with some exceptions, are also doing the same thing. They don't have the numbers because they haven't been doing it as long, but they are moving in that direction. But yes, we have to use existing second-degree murder law, especially the laws around DUI murders. That's essentially what this is. It's saying that someone who knowingly deals and traffics in fentanyl, knowing the risks, disregarded that risk, and did it anyway, we can proceed under a second-degree murder theory. But it's very difficult. It's legally difficult, it's difficult to collect the evidence, and so we formed a task force with the Sheriff's Department in our county. We're very blessed to have a Sheriff's Department that works with us like that, and we've been successful. Last thing, we know because we're listening to criminal organizations on wiretaps. We know it's having an effect. My critics say, oh, that doesn't matter, that's just the old you know, war on drugs, it's ineffective. It's a bunch of nonsense. The criminals, we hear them saying, we can't go into Riverside County with drugs because they prosecute people there. We're gonna go into Los Angeles and do the deal there. I've heard that over and over. Now, I don't wish the people of Los Angeles any ill, but I want them out of my county. And so that makes me happy when I hear that. It's working. We need to do this across California, across this country. It will have an effect.
Thank you. For both of my mayors, both of you represent districts that have high immigrant populations. Would it be fair to say that virtually every family that you deal with has some loved one on a list wanting to come to the United States? In other words, almost all of your constituents who are immigrant families also have further relatives that legally they're trying to get to the United States.
Congressman, thank you for that question, because I almost on a monthly basis am talking to families who are generally in tears wanting to get family members here. They've been waiting for years, and to watch people who cross the southern border, go down and see it in person, who do it without any waiting, without going through any of the lawful process, and then to see the families who do it the right way, who are investing tens of thousands of dollars in attorneys to guide them. The level of unfairness and injustice in that is off the charts. It's wrong, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. Thanks for making the case on that, because this is the committee that desperately wants to make sure that our legal immigration system works, which we all know takes longer when you go through the front door, obviously, than it does the back door. Mr. Godero, I'm going to ask you two things, at least. One of them is, will you take time with the committee to allow us to digitize as many of those documents with annotations as possible, so that we, unlike other federal entities, are willing to pursue and to help you get to some satisfaction for all your hard work?
Yes, with the caveat that I'd like to discuss all that in a closed session.
Absolutely, and we want to do it in an appropriate way. But you did share with me before we came on something of great concern that I would like to make public here. If I understood correctly, you have a number of documents there that show Afghan nationals who have been given Turkish documentation and then threw them away so that we wouldn't know that what we had were people from a country that in fact destroyed our country on 9/11, people from a country that we cannot and do not have any ability to trace, and by throwing those documents away that they used to get from Turkey to here, they concealed who they were when they turned themselves at the border.
Yes, sir. So we have, my team and I have collected a lot of these documents, and some of the people on my team were able to look into these different documents, albeit passports, ID cards, driver's licenses. I have a credit card from a company that was dropped at the border. It's an Indian company, and the person on the credit card, I decided it was the name of the company on the card, so I decided to Google it. That person has a Dun & Bradstreet number. None of this stuff makes sense, Congressman. We're having a hard time figuring it out, and my team is working tirelessly. I apologize for getting a little emotional in my testimony, but my team is unpaid. They are law enforcement, current, prior military, and we are trying to figure out what's going on, because we're having a hard time, like you said, finding someone or an agency, even all the different task force. I've talked to most of them, and they really don't know what to do with this stuff. It seems, and I may be wrong, it seems like we never were ready for this to happen. This, I will call it invasion because of what I've seen. And we don't have a task force to look into a possible invasion of our country. We weren't ready for it.
Well, we're trying to get ready for it, and I appreciate your testimony. Mrs. Cardinelli, I want to thank you for your testimony, and it is my hope that we will assert some pressure to see that those escorts continue, including federal officers. As much as I object to the Border Patrol being asked to be Uber drivers for illegal immigrants, I would rather that they see them at those stopping points, that they take them into custody, even if I sadly know that they'll be released. So we were with the Border Patrol yesterday in Customs. They're very dedicated, and I will personally take time to speak with them to see if we can't free up enough manpower to use that as a technique, not just for your child, but for all the children in the district. So thank you. Sheriff, I have 100 questions for you, but I'm going to follow up on the one I gave the DA. From your decades of experience, if you had a pretty straightforward, we're going to charge you with second-degree murder, we're going to put you away for the rest of your life. If you had that tool when you were apprehending even a low-level pusher, seller, does that give you, the fact that you could charge that, does that give you a lot more oomph to move up the chain to actually apprehend as many of the people involved? In other words, does the ability to prosecute at the highest level give you a tool that usually works well in your experience as a narcotics investigator?
I think over my time in law enforcement, it's obvious that whenever there's any level of accountability by way of holding somebody criminally accountable for their actions, when there's accountability, they want to protect themselves at some level. They may even want to change the way their actions are, and that does give us investigative leads, move up the chain, and as DA Hester mentioned, then we are on wiretaps and seeking the people that are really at the core of the problem, the ones that keep the business going.
Well, I will tell you, the three of us up here are convinced that we need to work hard to give you some additional tools, at least at the federal level. I will note that our U.S. attorneys, both in Riverside and San Diego County, have tried hard to do as much as they can with a California that often doesn't make something a crime it should be, and it is on a federal level. Do either of the members have a quick follow-up? Mr. Biggs?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I think the thematically, what we've heard today is that if you enforce the laws, you provide the deterrent and take away the incentive to violate the law, which so many are doing. I also want one more unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, tell me it.
It is Kamala's border chaos, San Diego sector out of control, illegals arriving from Jordan, China, and India. And I will just point out that yesterday,
without objection, it'll be placed in the record in its entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we were on the border, just getting to a gap in the wall. I've been to many times at that very gap, and every time there's people coming. There were 5 people coming. We had 2 from Guatemala, 2 from Colombia, and 1 from India. So just in a small group of 5, they told us that they did not know each other. They had met the day before in a hotel in Tijuana with the coyote who arranged for them to get together, drop them off, and that is the norm now across the southern border, and that has got to stop. And we want to help you all, because I know that you are great, sincerely trying to figure out remedies. And Mr. Chairman, again, thank you for letting me speak.
Most welcome. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chairman. Mayor Minto, during your response to the first question, you talked a little bit about the NGOs. Can you tell us kind of what's your overview on, and Mayor Franklin, I'm sure you have an opinion on this too, because we get a mixed message out there, right? And Catholic Charities takes kind of the brunt of the criticism related to the NGOs, but what is your experience right now with the give and take with the NGOs and what they're providing and the resources they're providing?
Well, what I'd like to do first is give you a little background on my experience with non-government organizations. And during the 2000s, I'll say, as I was a police officer My job was to create programs to keep kids out of trouble, out of the justice system, and we relied heavily on non-government organizations because when you encumber your police officers, your probation officers, they are not doing a job that they can be doing elsewhere. So if you bring them into the fold, the NGOs into the fold, and they are able to perform just basic services especially, then you know what, then your police officers, your probation officers and others can actually do the job they were hired for. It's better to find out what the cause is for an issue. We know that kids, for instance, do a lot of things, everything from boredom to being abused. And if you can find out why they're doing that, you can fix the problem. So non-government organizations usually have the resources because they get grants from everywhere you can think of, especially large ones like Jewish Family Services. So why not let them do the work, and then we can take care of the actual line work that has to be done. I guess that's the best way of doing it. And today, by having them on board, that still is the way that the work can be done best, in my opinion.
Mayor Franklin. There are 6,000 people living unsheltered on the streets of our county. 170 of those are living homeless on the streets of my city. Until I've got every single person who's an American off the streets and into a place of shelter, the idea of spending federal or county money to welcome immigrants who have come unlawfully. I visited that center funded by the federal taxpayer through the county of San Diego. They were spending $43,000 a week on transportation services. Now, one of the untold stories that didn't get talked about today, people are paying between $2,000 and $15,000 to the cartels. If they do not pay, many of them are murdered if they try and cross without paying that extortion. They come across oftentimes, as you've seen, in their best new clothes, and they're here to start a new life in the United States. Probably most of them that could afford the $15,000 or whatever they paid probably also had a few $1,000s in their pocket to get where they're going. Now, I don't have a problem with Catholic Charities and other NGOs providing some assistance on a compassionate humanitarian basis, but why the taxpayer would address the needs of people who have entered unlawfully, who seem to have some money, before we would address the needs of those who are living without shelter, who are homeless, defies explanation. So that's my experience.
Okay, you're back.
Thank you. In closing, I want to point out, the district attorney, I know he knows this, that Alexander's Law was introduced last year. It's working through Congress. The intent is, with perhaps even some enhancements, to begin to give you specific laws that would allow the U.S. Attorney to join in aggressive prosecution. Hopefully, as we're seeing other states who have looked at it and have introduced it, it would become something that would be both a state and federal tool. Because I do believe strongly that for law enforcement, this type of death through deception has to be attacked in a specific or overt way. Yesterday, we also introduced to the House of Representatives the Sanctuary City Accountability Act. I don't want to make this political, but we live in a sanctuary city area, Los Angeles and San Diego. We live in a sanctuary state. As a result, in many cases, the problems you've all told us about today are exacerbated by the actions. And the federal government is estimated to be spending over $152 billion a year in direct relation to these new and unasked for immigrants. Lastly, one of the things that I found hardest to understand that I want to make sure is in the record, we are talking today exclusively about people who entered the United States through the Mexican border. Mexico has an immigration policy that requires Afghans, Turks, Chinese, and the list goes on and on. Virtually every country on the planet must have a visa to come into Mexico. U.S. or international law requires if someone is seeking asylum or refugee status, that they must do so at the first entry to the next country, which in this case, in every case, was Mexico, if not the first, sometimes the second or third, but certainly we were never the first. Under Mexican law, if someone leaves China and wants to come to the United States via Turkey, they arrive in Turkey, a country which will not admit them without a visa, unless they say they're going to the United States but don't have a visa. They then fly to Mexico, where Mexico admits them, although they would not admit them without a visa, unless they say they're going to the United States without a visa. They then transit unescorted throughout the process, other than perhaps coyotes, to the Mexican border, completely free to remain in Mexico, but with the knowledge that they're coming to the United States. That is the present state of affairs. Not one person we've described today was lawfully admitted to the United States under international law. Every one of them had been admitted to Mexico in violation of Mexico's law and international agreements, and then presented at the border, where our Border Patrol is required to bring them in. NGOs are paid to help them, and in fact, we give them transit throughout the United States. That is the undeniable situation that I have dealt with since I returned to Congress. It is one that I know must end, and I want to thank all of you for your testimony and helping make the record complete. Next week, the committee will meet in Washington, and I'm assured that we will prepare an interim report summarizing our many hearings, including this one today. As is the policy of the committee, you will have 5 days, all of you, to present additional information, extraneous information, that information we talked about getting, so that we may make the record complete. Again, I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank our audience and those who covered this for the U.S. and international press. Without objection, now this meeting is adjourned.
Where they can come to the locations that are actually being affected by the border. So it's a field committee meeting. So I'm going to go around and actually see who I can get some have some conversations with. So if you want to stay tuned. Thank you for joining us. It's quite interesting to hear all of the testimony of the different people and how this has been affecting San Diego and California, really, and it bleeds out into the rest of the nation. So we'll be posting some little clips of different parts of the speeches and different things, but you can watch the live and see exactly what was said. And so I'm going to go around and see who I can talk to, but thank you guys for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that. It was quite interesting.
Here's your mic.
Okay,
you can mic up. and I'm going to leave yours on for audio right now. So we're
Okay.
live. If you want to come in and say something real quick, Audio
Okay.
just did a closing, and then we're gonna reset. I just need to grab this.
You bet.
And my stuff, and we're gonna move up wherever they're gonna put us.
Okay.
Right.
Beautiful. Fantastic. All right, let me check this out real quick. So, the question is, who put this together?
Do a thing for your crowd though, because you're live right now.
Okay, so right now.
Yeah.
So, but they're not seeing me.
No, just do let them know you're here, because I haven't been able to let them know.
Okay, guys, and we're on live right now. Hey guys, we're here at the Biden-Harris Border Crisis California Perspective Judicial Committee meeting in the city of Santee, California. Take Our Border Back is here with teams of people, teams of leaders from across the country, not just local, bringing the real issue to the table. How do we handle this border crisis? We've got Audra Morgan here. We've got teams, amazing teams here reporting. I am getting caught up as we go, and we're going to keep you guys tuned in to interviews as we go. So stand by, and we're going to do a review of this over the next 24 hours and bring you all into that conversation and get your perspective. I think the most amazing thing for me today has been speaking to the mighty warriors and the sheriffs that are here from across the country, local sheriffs as well. These guys are the warriors. It's time to get the Border Patrol sheriffs that have been hamstrung by the current laws in this sanctuary state. It's time to get them unstrung and giving them their ability to move in the way they're meant to move in protecting our borders and protecting our families, our cities, our states, our country, our nation. This is Kim Yater with Take Your Power Back and Take Our Border Back. And we're going to be back with you in just a moment.
Or 5.
Okay, we'll probably get started about 2. Okay, great. All right. Give us about 2 minutes. We're just making sure that it's all set up.
Oh.
Yep, okay. You came in. Yep, good.
No, it was
Came
good.
out on my drive down this morning by myself.
I did. So,
I was not happy.
It's hard to stay to script when it's like you're so passionate, but you let both sides
Good?
come.
I didn't want to go too much.
Good, Priscilla?
I wanted to be invited back.
Right. Yeah, I bet.
I know, but I'd be a little prepared for that. I wouldn't be surprised if they had asked me.
There's one of those things that nobody's getting this.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I was going to say.
Watch everyone remember.
Yeah.
Give me a check. To the organization. I'd like to pay everybody back.
Because they'll turn You were wise to say that's a closed door conversation.
Yeah.
This guy.
Oh, his card, yeah, John.
Everybody has my number at this point.
Yeah, gentlemen, if you guys want to start lining up before, just around Mr. Biggs. Yeah. Totally is. This is gonna be the main camera. She'll give you a cue to start speaking. It's not rolling. So if you guys want to surround, it's on either side.
I need some good-looking people behind me.
You don't want anyone from Riverside coming to you.
Ouch! Ouch! I don't think you understand, Mayor. I'm a 2-county congressman. You know, and we only have 54 counties. So, you know, it's like we're a big state with big counties. So,
Wait. We only have 15 counties.
yeah, but you're
Oh, no.
Congress, we're number
Look, you want to talk population. We can talk area. California's bigger than us, too, in area.
Yeah, but, you know,
but we're like number 4 or 5.
I want to thank all of you for covering today's hearing. As everyone understood, there were important statements made, discoveries that we are taking back to Washington, and most importantly, I believe that we've appropriately shed light on the items in which we can fix the border, we can reassess our policies and make those changes. And I was pleased to have both the Congressman from Mr. Biggs from Arizona and Mr. Fitzgerald from Wisconsin join us in this hearing. I'm sorry that more of the members weren't able to make it, but as you can imagine, there are a number of events like this going on around the country. We're very dedicated to fixing the problem that is swamping America. And with that, I think all of us are willing to take questions if you have brief ones.
I have a question for Mr. Godero. You mentioned finding social chats and that you were tracking. Have you been able to track any of those to see a clear trail that is organized within California and then goes outside of California?
Yes, ma'am. We've found a lot that from the CCP chats in particular that go from China and all through Turkey and in many cases in some other places, Ecuador, come up through into the United States, and then from there are 3 main places that these Chinese people in these chats are going. San Gabriel, Monterey, and Flushing, New York.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
What's the threat of JDATA? Well, you highlighted that, and obviously there's big news in Colorado, but they're in New York, Chicago, Miami. What role does Congress play in trying to address that threat? Because prior to this administration, TDA wasn't even on the radar within the United States.
Well, look, we represent a number of committees, including Judiciary here, but several committees of Congress are looking into how to undo the damage. Some of that, in the case of Venezuela, it is virtually impossible for us to get Venezuelan cooperation. However, all of these individuals that are now operating in the United States came in through Mexico. It is possible to have Mexico stop it. It is even possible to deport to Mexico people who were wrongfully allowed to pass through Mexico. Those are some of the solutions that we hope both the Foreign Affairs Committee and a new Secretary of State and an Attorney General work together to do. Other questions? Yes, sir.
If President Trump is elected back into office, he said he wants to launch the biggest, largest deportation effort in American history. but the government may not even know where more than 1 million migrants are. How will this committee assist in this?
Well, I think a lot of us could answer it, but I'll just give one. I don't have any question that if President Trump and now Senator Vance are looking at what to do, they'll prioritize criminal aliens. They'll prioritize people who have committed crimes and are incarcerated. The fact is that our prisons, including in California jails, are filled with criminal aliens. Those would be the highest priority, and we do know where they are. One of the challenges in California is that California will knowingly release a criminal without letting the federal agents know they're being released. So ending that policy and prioritizing it, no question at all. You know, when the president says, former president says that he'll do the largest deportation, when President Eisenhower, considered to be a moderate president by any stance, did about 2 million, that's about 2 million out of about 2 million. It will be the largest, even if only a fraction of the 12 to, well, 20 million illegals or more that are in this country are taken out. And as you heard in testimony, there's more than 1.5 million that are already been ordered to leave. They've been given due process that are likely still in the United States, and those would also be a priority.
Can I just
please
dovetail on that? So, for instance, when Representative Issa talks about prison population, about 10% of violent offenders in the Arizona prison system are illegal aliens, and so we know where they are. We can exercise that deportation right. But then also, and I want to add on to this. This 1.5 million people that have removal orders, they've had due process. They've got the order. And you're right, we don't know where they are. But this administration has said we can't look for them. It is only if we encounter them and they're committing some additional crime. Well, we've got to step that up, and we also have to incentivize. There are agencies, prosecutorial agencies in states that refuse to give ICE information when there's an ICE hold, an existent ICE hold. If you're not going to play ball with us and you're not going to give ICE holds, there should be a direct financial, fiscal consequence to you as a sanctuary jurisdiction, and we're not going to give federal tax dollars to you when you're not going to facilitate the enforcement of law. That really is important.
Yes,
yes, go.
Okay, 2 questions. Vice presidential candidate JD Vance is here today. I'm just wondering if you are meeting with him. And my second question is, the San Diego County Sheriff, the San Diego District Attorney, the San Diego Mayor, were they also invited here today?
We've had them at previous hearings, so you know we try to circulate it as the reason for the rotation. I think we also wanted to make sure that people understood the unique work that Riverside had began in their leadership. I'm not sure who's meeting with Senator Vance. Well, he's here today, but we all might.
Excuse me.
Last question.
Wait.
Congressman Issa specifically, but if anyone in law enforcement has thoughts on this, one of the things Border Patrol was talking to us about yesterday was the maritime border and how we've seen an influx under the Biden-Harris administration of people being shipped and also drugs being shipped across the Pacific coast. What have you been working on, and what do you think should be done about that frontier of the United States of America, in addition to obviously the standard southern border that we focused on today? What about that frontier?
Well, what we've been asking for is a greater amount of Coast Guard capability here in San Diego. We are, in fact, a major port, and we do have some Coast Guard, but they're swamped. So that's something as the local congressman that we're working on, is to get the additional resources, some of which is technical in nature. As you know, many of the drug traffickers are using semi-submersibles or sort of mini subs to get the drugs in, and in some cases, any number of unsafe boats to get to traffic human beings. Thank you all. I really appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
About the kids. Damn it.
Thank you, everybody. No, appreciate it. You were the right choice.
Hey, thank you. Thanks again, Mayor.
Like, try to run them down. It's not gonna happen.
It took me a minute to remember when we met.
I wanted to ask him about the kids.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Corey, I'd love to grab you outside and get a quick little interview with you. Is that okay? Thank you. Yep. Corey's going to come outside so we can grab him and interview him as well. Corey's going to come outside. Face out this way. Hi. How are you? Good. It's been a while. I know. You too. Of course. Sorry, excuse me. We'd really like to take one.
Oh wow. I started taking off my belt, like after I took off my belt. I met you before, I recognize you. Yeah. You guys are now free to learn the mic up yourself.
Okay, let's do it.
That way people can hear you.
Yes. Fantastic. Are we still running live right now? Are we still live right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, Amy. How are you? I'm good. Long time no see. Good to see you. I saw you up front there. Well, of course.
I was actually going to be one of the people testifying, but I was deemed too partisan by the people in DC.
Interesting. And so you'd be testifying on what in particular?
So I did a Public Records Act request and from CAL FIRE, and it showed that 7 out of 8 border fires in May were either intentionally or negligently caused by illegal aliens.
Let's do a quick little interview with you.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right, we're going to grab Amy real quick. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Where do you want to set up? You want to set up in the shade over here or right there? Do you want to set up right there? Yeah, perfect. Awesome. So do we want this? Actually, do you want to be this way and have that behind us? Let's do that.
I think you forgot your sunglasses.
Okay. Up.
You up to trouble, huh?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
You did good? Can I ask you a couple questions?
San Diego. Let me.
Okay. So how do you feel like that went? Do you feel like this is testing? Testing we clear?
I think this is very
All right, so we're still live.
The reason why I say that is because
for our Take Our Border Back crew.
Listening.
Right. You seen what we're doing with Take Our Border Back?
Yeah, you're doing great things.
It's difficult to prepare for this. You don't really know where you're going except for the title of the
Judiciary
hearing.
Committee meeting.
Yes.
In Santee. Federal.
Yeah.
It's a congressional meeting. Okay. I walked in a little bit late. I was out
This
here
was
with
official. They had to swear in a penalty of perjury before they gave their testimony.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. All right.
All right, fantastic. All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Take Your Power Back show. We are here in Santee with Miss Amy Reichert. And did I pronounce that right?
Yes, Amy Reichert.
Amy Reichert, love her. She's amazing. We've had her on our show quite a few times. We're the Judiciary Committee. This is a congressional meeting. People were sworn in and the border issue was brought to the table today. So Amy, it is an honor to have you. You were going to be one of the people speaking today and you had some very clear things that you wanted to share. So let's have you share that now.
So back in May, there were a ton of fires down at the border, and I had a gut instinct that, well, that there was a reason behind these border fires. So I submitted a Public Records Act request to CAL FIRE. They sent me the documents. They showed me the investigation behind it. 7 out of 8 border fires in May were intentionally or negligently caused by people who illegally crossed the border, either as a way to distract Border Patrol from illegal activities, or they were warming fires, or even warning fires, people who are in distress down there. But Border Fire 66, I just got the documents back from that. That burned over 300 acres.
Over 300 acres.
Yes, and
in
that
Southern
was in
California.
Yes, and that was in July.
And was that on our side of the border, Amy?
It was on our side of the border,
Okay.
and it involved 4 aircraft from CAL FIRE to put
Wow.
it out. And what we're finding is our border is on fire.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's great to have a hearing like this. Yes, I was asked to be one of the witnesses, but They wanted the witnesses not to be partisan, and well, guess what? I'm partisan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Amy, for standing for the truth. So I want you to paint a picture for me. If this continues, if the invasion of the border continues, we have these fires being intentionally set. What could be the impact if this is not stopped?
I think the implications are disastrous all around. I mean, first of all, when you've got 8 border fires a month going on, 7 of them are caused by people who crossed illegally. It's an environmental disaster. We know that insurance companies are fleeing the state, refusing to insure homeowners, hiking up their premiums. We know all it takes is one match and this entire county is threatened by wildfire. We are in the high-risk wildfire season right now. I am ringing the alarm bells. I've been telling electeds, pay attention. We have fires consistently down at the border. This threatens the entire county, property, people, the environment. So thank you for having me on and to share this with your audience so that people know the truth.
Yeah, it's very key because the truth will set us free. You can find us at takeyourpowerbackshow.com. You can also find us at takeourborderback.com. Amy, I want people to be able to find you and the information that you presented today.
So go to my social media channels. These social media channels are not approved by the government.
Not government approved, let's just clarify
Lots of free speech going on. Amy FOR San Diego. That's on X and Instagram and Facebook.
Amy Reichart, thank you for all you do. God bless.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with you all in just a moment. Okay.
Thank you.
But there's been whistleblowers that have come forward where, they find them in doing child labor, but then there's also the sex trafficking. And, there'll be agents that will take thousands of children.
Comes out. All right. We still going live?
What would you think that the answer to that would be?
Just
I think the answer is that if we can stop the illegal immigration and you stop a lot of that, because they're so overwhelmed right now, how do you really manage it?
Right.
That question is, and if they took blood and samples and...
How are you? I'm great.
We probably have a detention facility the size of Arizona.
For sure.
Although which wouldn't be a bad place to, put up some fun.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you again soon.
No, you know what?
Are you going to be at Sandbag this next week?
Do you want me? I can come in here.
Yeah, no, wherever I'm trying to say line up your next one, I'm trying to go get
Corey will be my next one.
She's
fantastic.
I was interviewing Minto.
No, I know, that's what I was saying. Do you want to do it out here or
No, I already did.
Person?
Yeah, I would like to.
I didn't mean to double up.
I know.
Was running.
I know.
Do you want to bring
just
anyone?
line up out here. That way
I'm going to grab Corey. Do you, I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, I would like
to
to
interview. Okay, let me go grab him.
You know what I mean? So
I just didn't want to waste time because.
Set up on the outside of the fence though, so I'm not in this secure area.
Okay.
And I'll probably set up right here and then point back to you right here. So.
Corey.
Hey,
Can I interview you?
He just went around it.
Great.
Shit, this is
Yeah, can we go back inside?
I know. You want to go back?
We're so sweaty.
Can we get you? Hot. Okay, fantastic. All right, so she'll go first. I'll get you after.
All right. So I'm here with Corey the Goat, or Goatero, right? Is that right? Yes. And so how do you feel like this went? Do you feel like this was productive?
I guess we will see what happens. I'm wishful thinking. I hope it's productive. Let's see what happens.
Right.
I don't know if we can change this stuff overnight. We need to. We definitely need to. But it's going to be a long process, and I think you and I will be around for the fight for the long term.
I definitely think so, and it's been interesting, experiencing going out and doing that, and being where you are. I'd still like to kind of go on your property at some point. But are you still finding the amount of IDs and stuff that have been dropped, or is that kind of staggered off? I mean, has it not been as many lately, or? I mean, do they continue the same as they have been?
It's kind of it's dwindled, as I'm sure you've seen, but And I don't really know the reason for that. One theory that I have is that people like you and I have been collecting this stuff and posting about it, and you know that everybody's watching. It's not just our friends and family. It's the bad guys are watching too. So what I do know is that they are now dropping them further into Mexico. So I have some sources that are on the south side of the border, and they'll bring me bags of stuff. So what I think happened is they saw what we were doing and other people were doing, and they shifted it to, hey, you got to drop it on this side because they're going to pick it up on the other side. Now, why would the cartel care? I have no idea.
Right, I've noticed that too, actually. I was like, it seems like there's more on that side, whereas before it would just be here.
Yeah.
They're dropping them, as, like, even right where they're being picked up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I found child documents like that. I'd actually like you to look at this one that I have, because it's from, there's a notary in New York that was, like, giving a father permission for his children to travel unaccompanied. So it's interesting to see who's kind of complicit in that. So it is us as well, like as the other side, right? You know, as far as the kids go, what do you think the answer to that is? Like to, you know, either finding these children or making sure that they don't continue to get quote unquote lost, which we know they're not, but that's what they say.
I guess the first thing we need to do is shut down the border, not shut down the ports of entry, but shut down the illegal places that are coming through. And then we have to stop the bleed before we continue to, I mean, we can't do things simultaneously, but we need to stop the bleed at the border. And then after that, we need to get into the Office of Refugee Resettlement. We need to shut it down. And everyone in there needs to be prosecuted. Right. Anyone that's been complicit with this stuff. The Office of Refugee Resettlement is sending kids to unvetted sponsors. How do you have a conscience and do that? I don't understand.
Right. Now, in the communications that you get, do they ever talk about the unaccompanied minors, or is that more just other kinds of communication that you're seeing?
I haven't seen anything about the kids in the chats. They're very quiet. I think they know. You know, they're not dumb. I think they know that if we catch them talking about kids, or if we have concrete evidence, which we do on the U.S. side, that people would be very upset about that.
All right. Well, thank you, Corey. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
All right.
See you later.
So that from you? Okay, we're going to have you turn your body in so we can see the handsome man that you
It's
are.
hot out here.
I know, right? Okay. Getting you off. All right, Corey. Corey, first of all, it is an absolute honor to be here with you again. We've had the privilege of interviewing you on the Take Your Power Back show. So we're here at the Judiciary Committee, try to say that, right? So this is going to go before Congress, right? So this is a federal meeting. Everybody was sworn in. Now, they brought you in as a specialist in a certain arena. So let's talk about that.
Well, I think they brought me in because I have all this information, and you can see in that case right there that my friend has there.
Let's take a quick look at that case that's right here. We're going to pan to that case because the evidence is right there. All right. So let's talk about why they brought you in again and the evidence and the importance of that evidence getting to the right people right now.
So I've tried to get this evidence to the right. I think we were talking about it on your show. I've tried so hard to get this evidence to anyone that cares. I've talked to so many different three-letter agencies. Most of them, some have taken some pictures, and then I never hear anything back. But it's just crazy the amount of stuff that I have. There's a passport in there that is from China, so a Chinese passport, and the Chinese national went from China to Iran, UAE, and back to China. There's stamps in there from all those. This is a treasure trove of intelligence, and I bring this up all the time. If we were in any other country, if we were in Iraq or Afghanistan and there were passports and stuff laying on the ground in the city, we'd pick them up and we would get them to the correct intel guys.
That's right.
We don't do it in our own country.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, now if we take a look though, Corey, really, in the past, we would have gotten it to the people that it needed to go to. And they were on top of it. But something has happened. What is it that's happening that's getting in the way of this evidence getting to where it needs to go, where people are like, this is important and we're going to do something about it?
So I agree with that the administration is blocking a lot of this stuff or stopping it from the administration or the cronies that are falling in line with the administration, right? But I also believe that we were never ready for this. We were never ready for an invasion on our own country.
That's right.
We don't have a task force, from what I know, that will look into this stuff. And I called, like I kind of called for here today, start a task force. I already have a team.
Amazing.
Let's
Amazing.
do it.
So, I think, Corey, it's time for the teams to connect.
I agree.
Because right now, what we're working on throughout this country, we the people are unifying. The patriots, the people that love America and love this country. Not only is it our country, we've got our freedom-loving Canadians who want to restore sovereignty in their nation, Mexicans who want to restore sovereignty in their nation and give the power back to we the people. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take pulling the teams together, bringing all of the evidence, and we, the people, hold our elected officials accountable. This is a breach of Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, right? This is, exactly as you said, Corey, it's an invasion. So in that case over there, you have evidence that would lead people down the road, or let's say the rabbit hole, to where it's initiating, who's doing it, who it's connected to. So why do you think that they don't want to look at this evidence?
Unfortunately, they're probably involved.
Yeah, I'm going to share something right now. So we just broke a case 2 days ago. There is a county in Tennessee right now where the police department is being thrown under the bus. And I believe it's Myersville. And the assistant chief is Sean Taylor. Sean has been gathering evidence just like you. He's been gathering evidence for the past 12 years, exposing the cartel, the human trafficking, the stolen elections, following the money, following the pathway. Do you know his entire team? They just went to the station with a warrant, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, put them on watch, went to Sean Taylor's home. They go to this guy's home, take all of his computers, take all of his cell phones, no true warrant, all right? And then and excuse the words, piss all over his tub and leave a trail. So this is corruption at best. The news channels right now are giving his address out, Fox 17. Phil Williams is turning it to make it look like he's a crazy man. So Corey, you have 1 minute. Give me a call to action for the people, because there is clear corruption everywhere and it will be exposed.
We need the people to share this stuff, and people are I've been told that some of the stuff that I have right there is green screen. Go to the border. I mean, a lot of people that live here in Southern California, all you have to do is just drive there and look at it yourself. Nobody has to believe me. Go look yourself. Talk to your friends that live here.
Yeah.
And these people are not crazy. This is happening. You can see it on the news. You can see the people coming in from the ocean like they talked about today. It's an incursion, and we're sitting here acting like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to be too late if it not already is.
So the call to action for the people is to wake up, get involved, get here now. We stand up together. Corey Gordero, how can people reach you?
So I have on Instagram, it's the GOAT Initiative or the Corey Goat. The GOAT Initiative is
GOAT Initiative.
Yes, ma'am. We started this. That's my team is the GOAT Initiative. So we're doing all this stuff with our own money and trying to put this stuff in a light.
Yeah. All right. So people can actually support you.
Thank you.
So that you can support your family and be freed up to do it. Corey Gordero, thank you for being here today. Just appreciate you so much. Thanks for being a Stand for Freedom. And thanks to you guys. This is Kim Yater from Take Our Border Back and the Take Your Power Back show. Guys, let's take this nation back together. We can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. JJ Carroll. Have you connected with JJ Carroll?
Nope.
There's a new movie coming out. Okay. You need to reach out to me.
The treason thing?
Yes. So, JJ Carroll. Okay. Awesome. All right.
All right, get out of
Okay. I know.
Just the good people. Good looking people.
Okay. All right, I'm here with Mayor John Mento. He is the mayor of Santee here. We're actually using your city hall for this, which was very nice. I don't know that you had a choice. I'm not sure if you were.
We did have a
you
choice.
Did.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. I know you were talking about the NGOs, and you were saying that, if we don't use them, then, they're going to be released on the streets. Even when that $6 million transfer site got shut down, they were releasing them on the streets. And I know they've gotten the money, but do you think that, just by the NGOs actually helping more, that it incentivizes these people to come because they know they'll have a hotel, they'll have transportation, they'll have 3 meals a day, that they're going to be very well taken care of?
I think that it wouldn't matter if they were told that, because even if it wasn't here, they're going to be told it's here for them. Right. And we heard about a lot of that very early on during the influx of migrants into places like when they were being sent to New York. Mm-hmm. And they were being told, oh, well, you're going to be met with by groups and people to give you a home and all this kind of stuff. And it didn't really work out that way. What they did is they turned to very many criminal type of situations where they took what they needed. Right. And so I think it would happen either way. My whole point on the non-government organizations helping out is that, yeah, there's a lot of people. Well, if you look at the numbers I talked about today, well, they certainly don't add up to the, up between 125 and 155,000 people released on our streets, and only 80,000 maybe going to the center when they opened it up. Well, certainly that's not a lot. It's not even a half. Can you imagine, though, if that number wasn't, 80,000, what was only 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, which could be handled by a smaller group? Right. Well, that means that's how many more, 70, maybe 1,000 more people that doesn't have the ability to get to where they want to go, or where somebody said that they can go get help. Because I have a hard time believing that many people have sponsors in the United States. Yeah, right. It doesn't make sense to me, and you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Right. So somebody's lying to these people all the way through, and if you don't speak the language and you come here, you're just at somebody's mercy. Right. That's why it's so easy to victimize them. Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to put a bunch of pills in your pocket. Not really going to hurt anybody, but we'll get you across the border if you do that for us. Well, you know what? That's how you get a lot of smuggling done. And when you talk about the millions of people coming across, if they just put a pocket full of pills in their pocket, oh, well, you know what? That's a lot of drugs coming across that border, isn't it? That's right. You don't have to look at the old days where, they're putting, barrels full on a truck and bringing them in. It's still getting here. And unfortunately, most of those pills are laced with the fentanyl. And it's killing people in our streets, and it's killing people in our homes, our schools. And I had the thought of that, the paramedics and the naloxone and things like that are, saving lives. Well, how many more deaths would we have across the country if we didn't have those life-saving measures? If the paramedics or fire department isn't able to go save a life, how many more deaths will we have? And I think that's an interesting statistic to maybe try and, look at. Because, we only hear about the deaths, don't we? Right. We don't hear about those near deaths. That's true. So I think that's something I'm going to look into.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's good. And one more thing about the NGOs. So I don't know if you know, because South Bay Community Services, was the SBCS, was the one who got the $6 million. Mm-hmm. And when you look at their breakdown of their spending, about just under $2 million of that went to their staff for just over 4 months. So what do you think about that? Because that's what happens a lot of times with the NGOs, is that it goes into their CEO pockets and to the higher echelons of the entity. And so it's not actually giving as much money as it could towards helping these migrants. Do you think that's a problem? Especially, let me kind of add a little thing to that too, like the Catholic Charities has actually filed for bankruptcy due to pedophilia allegations and having to pay off their victims, so it's really hard to follow their money. And so that's a concern for me, is knowing that you can't just figure out where they're spending it, and it's a lot easier for them to hide it, because I don't think, even with SBCS, that they would necessarily want people to know that they're employees, because how many employees could you have for, $2 million for just under 5 months?
I think most non-government agencies really want to do a good job, but they get caught up in the funding of it. I know that when I was working very closely with a lot of them back in the mid-2000s, we'll say, what I found is that you had a lot of organizations doing the exact same work. And they were always administrative heavy. And so I thought, why is it that all of them don't come under one roof? You have one administrator, or a certain number of administrators, because you have to have a hierarchy, so to speak. But if they're all doing the same thing, then the money goes further.
Right.
A great organization to look at is the Joe and Vi Jacobs Center down in southeast San Diego. They were for many years giving a variety of organizations money to do things. And one day they decided, you know what? We're not making any headway because we keep giving money to all these different organizations. Why don't we put it all under one roof? We'll give all the money in one spot and let them take care of business. And so they created the Jacobs Center down there, which is a very innovative.
Family Services?
Yes. And so they do a lot better. I mean, yeah, they're a non-government organization, but that's a better idea. Don't put your money in so many places that it's not efficient. Take and put it maybe under one or two roofs, and you might be able to do a whole lot better. And you reduce the administrative cost.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Oh yeah. How can people find you or reach you, or if you'd like?
I'm pretty easy. Just if you can't remember the City of Santee, ca.gov, all you have to do is Google City of Santee, and you know what? You're good to go. Send me an email. If you do send an email or something, please leave your phone number or something so I can get back to you. I hear it all the time. You never got back to me. Well, you never gave me a way to get back to you.
Right. Are you on social media at all?
Not very much. A little bit. I have a Santee Mayor, John Minto Santee Mayor page, but I don't do a lot on social media because my whole idea of social is like what we're doing here, talking and one-on-one. If I can't look you in the eye and tell you what I think, well then, how are you going to believe me if I'm just writing something that anybody could have written for me and put it on social media?
Yeah, I do remember the first time I met you out here, you sat and talked for quite some time. It was very nice because I felt like, a lot of times they want to kind of get people away, like I don't want to talk, but you were very welcoming, so I really appreciate that.
As a matter of fact, I think the first time I saw you was you wanted to speak, said you put in the speaker slip, and we didn't see it.
Right.
And I said, come up and speak anyways. We'll take care of the paperwork later.
Yes.
Which is something that's very different also.
It is, and I really appreciate that.
Because we want to hear from people.
That's right.
We may not like what everybody has to say, but we want to hear from them.
And I can tell that with you, and so I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. That was nice. Yeah. I remember that.
Man, it's getting hot out here.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Eli, come on over. Great job. It's good to see you again.
Good seeing you too.
Good to see you. Come on. Somebody pull Eli in real quick. But you and I
Doing
need
a quick
to
plug.
Okay.
What? We need to get you
Doing
on
a
my
quick
show.
plug for this
Ask you a
Birch
couple
Leadership
questions.
Conference.
Here we go. The Take Your Power Back show. And I run Take Our Border Back.
So is this
I
live
didn't want
stream?
to, be look like I'm
Live
Take
data?
Our Border Back. That's
Oh,
right.
we're rolling.
Say
Hey,
live
so
data. I'm going to do real
we have
quick
our
with
quick
Eli,
host.
but if you
Okay.
hang for a
Maybe
second,
one
I
or
want to ask
two
a couple
minutes,
questions.
that's all I got.
Fantastic.
I'll be in here.
He's kidding. Yeah, I know. It's all hot. He's like,
I'm
Is that okay?
Go with him first.
Okay, take just a second. Eli, come on over. How do you say your last name?
Komai.
Come on. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. You have the book with you?
I have this little article by
Okay.
Bill Jasper.
Well, they can't really see that. But
No?
Okay.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
here we go. Eli, come on. All right. All right, guys, we're here at the Judiciary Committee in Santee with mayors, with leaders, with warriors who are standing up to bring to light what's happening with the invasion at the border. Article 4, Section 4 of our Constitution, there's a complete invasion. So they're bringing this to the light so that they can take this to Congress and do something about it. I have a feeling it's going to take we the people. But with us right now is Eli Komai. So Eli, you work closely with the John Birch Society. There is an event coming up next weekend in Orange County. It's a pretty stellar event. If all goes well, we'll be broadcasting live from that event. Tell us a little bit about that event, what we can expect and why we all need to be there.
Sure, Kim. Every year, the John Birch Society's leadership gets together It's called the National Council, and they have what's called a council dinner. It's a formal dinner, and then before that, during the daytime, it's just a bunch of workshops to actually get people more effective. The latest tips of the trade that really works when it comes to grassroots activism. There's going to be people, luminaries from all over the country, all over the freedom fight. You have decades of experience in that conference. It's called the Leadership Conference, and then at the end is that council dinner. That is September 21st. That is Saturday. There's a movie night on September 20th where we have have you seen the Fall of Minneapolis?
I have not seen The Fall of Minneapolis. I need to see that.
Such a good documentary. The filmmakers, Liz Collin and her husband, Bob Kroll, with formerly lieutenant of the Minneapolis Police Department, they're going to be there for the movie night that Friday night. But anyways, the big meat and potatoes is this Saturday, September 20th. You can write that down. Bill Jasper, the author of this excellent article, is also going to be there.
Okay, fantastic.
Bill is amazing.
Yeah, and you know, John Schrock, one of our speakers for Take Our Border Back, will be there as well. Yes. So he's joining us on the Rainbow Bridge in New York, in Canada, as well as driving with us to D.C. to rescue the Republic. So I'm so excited about this event. I'm going to be at this event, broadcasting from this event as well. And
I saw when you bought your ticket earlier this week.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Eli, I just appreciate you for being a stand for truth. And this is truly about closing the gap and giving power back to the people. That's what it's going to take. So
it starts with closing the knowledge gap. So please get your tickets. There's a few spots remaining. JBS.org. They're very affordable, especially if you're only going for Saturday during the daytime. It's only $80. And General Michael Flynn's going to be there. So
our buddy, local action equals national impact. All right, Eli, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next week. And we'll see you guys there next week as well.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Just go to jbs.org.
Yeah,
It's all
jbs.org. They're the bomb diggity. And if you're not part of their program, you don't get their magazines, you need to get them. All right. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
Merrick, spell your name for me.
Minto, M-I-N-T-O, like
Minto
with an M.
And you are the mayor of Santee.
I am.
Oh, I love
and
it.
you're not.
Hey! All right, tell me, we ready to go? You said, I'm the mayor of Santee, and you're not. All right, this is Kim Yater from Take Our Border Back and the Take Your Power Back show. So we are here at the Judicial Committee. So there actually, Mayor Minto, let me ask you this. There was a reason why we all got together today.
Yes.
We already are aware of the invasion at the border, but why was today, this meeting, so significant?
Well, it was significant to me because I had the opportunity to bring a judiciary, easy for you to say, right?
Judiciary, try to say that 10 times.
I know. Committee to Santee.
Yes.
And not because it's so much important to Santee, because we don't have nearly the issues that we have surrounding Santee. But the region as a whole and our county as a whole needed to be addressed and have somebody that's willing to listen to us, hear us.
Yes.
But it was really difficult because all we get really is the Biden-Harris border crisis. So how do you really, create a statement around that? And you don't want to sound angry because you want to be heard. And I know, sitting on a dais, that when people come in angry, sometimes I kind of tend to shut down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think we all do that. I mean, if I'm in your face and I'm yelling at you, well, you're going to be wanting to back up and get away from that situation.
Sure.
So I talked about some of the things that are affecting us here in Santee, as well as all the surrounding cities.
I mean, really, though, let's just really take a look.
Yeah.
I mean, these are just people coming over across the border. They just need to eat and sleep and work and find a place to live. How is this really affecting Santee?
Well, the way it's really affecting Santee is, I'll give you a great example. You have a large number of migrants coming over here just to do all those things you just said. Well, somewhere along the way, something went wrong. They became victims. They may have become overheated because of the heat that we have here now. During the big rains, they may have become victims of the elements, or they may have become victims of other people who are like raping them, taking their children to exploit them to be prostitutes. And when I say that, a lot of people think, oh, just, young girls. Well, it's not. It's also young boys.
And girls, young
men.
children, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, because where there's an opportunity to exploit somebody,
Yeah.
People who do that exploitation business will do it.
That's right. And some of these children have come over and have been tested with 60 different DNA in their body.
Oh, absolutely. I know that in my law enforcement career, I had to work on a lot of those kind of cases, so I understand them very well and understand what those people do, because it's all about the dollar. It's not about helping you as a person even. And so here's the other thing that really impacts my community. And I talk about this because it's not just police and it's not just about deputy sheriffs. It's also about our fire departments. And it's not just Santee Fire Department, but it's also every other fire department in the county that has to take people to the hospital. For instance, they bring people into El Cajon, drop them off at the transit center. And one of the things they do is they make their way up to Sharp-Grossmont Hospital. And the reason why is because they may have been assaulted. They may have fallen, gotten hurt along the way. They may have infected blisters because of the long walks and things. So for a variety of reasons, but they need to get assistance. And they're told, go to that hospital. It's a county hospital, so you and I pay for it.
Yeah.
But here's what's important. State law requires that the fire department, paramedics, whichever group brings in a patient, has to be back on the streets within 20 minutes. Sharp-Grossmont is one of the busiest hospitals in the state of California, and they're so overcrowded, there's no way we're getting those firefighters or paramedics back on the streets to address problems that they have. We have to call on mutual aid from San Diego, La Mesa, El Cajon, and vice versa. They're calling us to help when they're tied up at hospitals. So how is that fair to the taxpayer? It's not.
It's not fair at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you need medical aid, okay, I get it. But you know what? If we had a better border policy, or just enforce, holy mackerel, just enforce the policies we have now, we wouldn't have that issue. We wouldn't have those people.
The policies that we have right now.
We wouldn't have to worry about people being injured or abused or things of that nature.
Yeah.
So that's the key here, is enforce the policies we have, enforce the laws. You know, I raised my hand when I got sworn in and said, I swear to defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of California.
You did, didn't you?
I did, and you know, I've done that
So
many
swore
times.
on the word of God.
Absolutely.
You committed to God, and you said, I will adhere this Constitution. I will support, I will be a stand for we the people.
That's correct. And you know what? I'm not so sure other people that take that oath understand what that oath means. Or maybe it's just a a thing we have to do. Well, it's not just a thing you have to do.
It's not, is it?
You know what? When you it's almost like the old West. You know, you shake hands. Your word was your bond.
That's right.
And today there is a lot of question on which word is your bond. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Everybody you talk to today, especially if somebody that's an elected official, and they tell you something, you have to wonder, why are they just telling me that because they want my vote? It's like when I was a brand new elected person, or wanting to be elected person, I should say, and I walk door to door and people say, so what are you promising? And I said, I don't promise anything. They go, why wouldn't you promise? I said, well, first of all, it takes 3 people on a council to get whatever you want. And if I say I'm going to pass out $50 bills, you're going to think that's a great job. I'm standing in line, so I'm going to vote for you. But if I don't have 3 people on the council saying, well, I think that's a good idea, it's not going to happen. That means I just broke my promise. And that happens over and over again. People make promises because they sound good.
Yes.
It sounds good. I'm going to make sure we have wheelchair ramps on every corner. Well, you know what? Some of them can't do it because it's such an old location, you can't get one there.
Right.
Broke the promise.
Yep.
So the bottom line is, do your job. Provide for good roads, public safety. That means fire and police. And everything else is, in the middle. Amenities.
Yeah.
Concerts in the park. And that's what we have to get back to. Now, I can't really always do a real good job with that if I'm spending my money on people that don't belong here, or didn't come here legally.
Yeah, because we do have a process in place for a safe, legal immigration. And I did hear people saying today that there are so many people that have gone through the process of safe, legal immigration. They've paid the money, they've crossed their T's, they've dotted their I's, and their loved one is still not here yet. But all these illegal immigrants have made their crossing. They've been fed, they've been put up in homes, they've been given jobs, and they've been offered the opportunity to buy a home. I think, are they given $150,000?
I forget what the number
Yeah,
is, but
just
it's ridiculous.
absolutely absurd. We're not even taking care of our own people. You know, if we do not have a border, we do not have a nation.
That's correct.
Do you think that the meeting today is really going to move the needle? That what was spoken of today, and now the leaders that are here are bringing this to Congress, is it going to shift if the current administration remains the current administration?
I don't think so at all. Yeah, and who knows if it will ever shift? I mean, it's such a rabbit hole that we've gone down that it's going to take a long time to climb out of it. What I can say, though, is that by having these hearings and hearing from people in the communities and people who are experts, people that represent, is one way for any new administration to hear what the issues are and do what they can to address them.
Yeah.
Now, if you have the same regime, then they don't care about what was said. They're not going to address anything because they know, obviously, you don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to follow the law to get elected to the highest positions in the land.
Right.
So
right.
why should we change anything?
Right, right. Do you feel like today, the people that you invited to be here, did all of those people show up, or were there a few that were maybe resistant or had excuses for not being here? Curious.
Do you mean people to be witnesses?
People to be witnesses, maybe even people to speak or to represent.
Well, what I know is that the congressional staff handled all of that, all the witness calling. And so why they made the decisions on who they chose, I couldn't say. I think Congressman Issa said it pretty clearly that, you know, we've already called and heard from some of these people, so we don't want to hear from them again.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming to East County, for instance, is a big deal because most people think there's nothing east of I-15. And so to be heard for a change, even by...
That's right. This is Santee. Come on.
Well, but that includes El Cajon and big portions of La Mesa, Spring Valley, Lemon Grove. You know, how many years can you go without being heard? And then when finally somebody offers to hear, you take that opportunity.
That's right.
And all you can do is, like my wife tells me, I'm the biggest optimist and hopeful person that she knows because regardless of what I continue to see, even when I was a law enforcement officer, I still wanted to see and believe in the good things that people would do.
Right, of course.
Because without hope and without faith, you really, why even bother?
That's right.
So keep the faith, have hope, and just do your job.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about Santee just for a moment.
Okay.
I was speaking with the sheriffs, and by the way, the sheriffs are mighty warriors. We love the sheriffs. The sheriffs have quite a bit of power. We've got to stop hamstringing the sheriffs, stop hamstringing the Border Patrol. So we were talking about Santee and the conservative, the liberal audience, and they said years ago it was majority conservative.
It still is.
Is it really?
Yes.
So they said there's a bigger shift now that there is. They said that it's kind of, it feels like it's a 50-50 split. What's your thought?
Well, I can tell you right now that we're well over 50% Republican registry in Santee.
Okay.
And even our Democrat friends are a lot more towards the middle than they are far left. And that's what makes the difference. And that's one reason why we continuously get a 5-0 Republican council. And because our council tends to not look at things that is a partisan way, what's good for the city? Well, fixing those doggone roads are good for the city.
Right,
so you find out how to do it. We're mostly a non-taxing agency. Our firefighters have put something on the ballot for taxation because they wanted to help us to make a better fire department for the citizens. And you know what? That's hard to argue with.
Yeah.
And so so that's on the ballot this time around, but it's still very conservative. People say, you know, if you're building fire stations, I see where my money's going to. So I think I'm willing to vote for that. But it's those, bonds and things you never see where your dollars go to. You're going,
right.
well, how in the world am I supposed to know whether or not I should vote for that?
Right.
But this.
It's all good. We're good. We're good.
So this initiative, for instance, requires oversight, and it's a citizen oversight, and it has a sunset in 15 years, and a clause that says that if we get the money sooner, we can pay it off sooner.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Last
that's a
question.
better tax.
It's a better tax. Last question for you today. If today you were given the responsibility to make the decision for the United States in regard to the invasion at the border, what is that one decision that would move the needle that you would make today, and if it would happen? So you're given the decision today, you can make it, and it will be done.
I would deploy troops and hold the line until we could build that wall.
The Wall of Nehemiah. You have the spirit of Nehemiah. If you don't know, read Nehemiah in the Bible, guys. Everybody read Nehemiah right now. That is the wisest thing I've heard today out of everyone I've spoken with. Mayor, you are a joy. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. God bless in America. Guys, share this with everybody. Mayor, how can people support Santee, support you, and just stay up to date?
I think the biggest way is to tune into our television station. Most people don't know it, but we have Santee TV.
You have Santee TV?
We have Santee TV.
We gotta get on Santee TV.
It's 24-hour programming. It's a government channel, and we post everything on there, including, I don't know about today because I don't know if we were allowed to video today in there.
Okay.
But all of our council meetings, all of our committee meetings, we do a lot of special events and special meetings there. When we go out in the community, our concert in the parks, they're all videotaped, and it all goes on there.
So good.
We have information from the sheriff's department, like for instance, something big's coming up, or there's a public service announcement he's made. We have Trash Talk. Trash Talk.
That's going to be a good one. Trash Talk.
Trash Talk is actually hosted by Waste Management. And they talk about things like, for instance, it's Labor Day. Don't put your trash cans out the day they're supposed to be there. It makes it a day later.
Love it.
Whatever it might be. So the whole idea is that what we want to do is keep our people, not just in Santee, informed, because we have a choice of a small area to broadcast to or the entire county. And we chose the entire county. Because we also, we also have animal control will come in and talk about things. We have the water board that comes in and will show their school board will show their meetings on our station. So everybody gets a chance to know what's going on around here.
I love it. So if that channel, what channel is it again?
On AT&T, it's 99.
AT&T
Cox
99
is 117.
Okay, Cox 117. So I'm going to give you my information again.
Okay.
And if you want to take any of our footage and get it up on your show, we give you permission to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
you so much. An absolute honor. Guys, it's time to take our border back. This is Kim Yater with the Take Your Power Back show, and take our border back. God bless you. Thank you for all you do.
You're welcome.
Nehemiah, the spirit of Nehemiah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Chula Vista Live Data and San Diego
That's
Live
where you're gonna
Data.
get everything.
We only do it live. We don't cut things. We don't edit things. We want to hear the people's voice, the representative's voice, and we just want to make sure people can hear you.
I'm used to people just cutting me out.
I appreciate your time, though. They were waiting for the last two.
All right.
Say your name for the camera. Okay. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, why don't you just say your name so that.
Oh, my name is Patty Cavada.
Patty what?
Patricia Cavada.
Okay. So I met Patty at an event, actually, a few years ago or something like that. And then I saw her at the Board of Supervisors. Then we were doing James O'Keefe, which was interesting. But you didn't make it on time to this, which sucks. I'm sorry that you didn't, but I know that you have a lot to say about what's going on the border. Why don't you tell us what you've been working on just outside of that?
Well, I mean, I am working towards the schools, trying to educate parents, especially Spanish-speaking parents, as to what are the laws that are being passed in the state of California and how it's affecting them. And I talk to parents that are documented and undocumented because I'm a firm believer that a lot of the citizens are starting to remove their children from the schools, which then leaves all the undocumented children, which the Democrat Party is going to pretty much make them a part of their party. Because there's so many people have been manipulated that they can no longer see the truth. So that's what I go to a lot of different communities. I just explain laws to people. I'm a supporter of farm workers, and I think that people need to be looking at the border because of the human trafficking, and people need to start speaking about that conversation openly, rationally, instead of having heated conversations where they're calling each other racists and colonizers, but rather have the conversations that look at things at face value, which is many women, children, and men are being human trafficked across that border. So that's actually why I came here, because I wanted to ask someone here why they don't have any more, I don't know if it's billboards or going into the community and putting things out in the different languages that is predominantly in those communities, because the truth has to be told what's happening down at the border. And there's too many politicians in the state of California, senators, assemblymen, your local representatives. They all are participating in what's happening at the border, because if they weren't participating, then they would have shut it down. But apparently they like children being sold.
Yeah, that's I think my biggest concern is the children. Actually, I know it is. And just the fact that, they say that they lose these children when we know that they don't, right? I mean, that they're, a lot of times used for labor, forced labor, but also sex trafficking. And so do you think that because we were talking before, that if things were in Spanish a lot more, do you think that they would understand that this is what's happening as opposed to kind of being ignorant to it when they get here?
I think that there's a lot of people they come because they're given false promises, because they're being promised so many different things in their countries all over the world, right? I think that if the information was put out, Spanish or whatever languages, again, are predominantly in those areas, I think that you would have people that will become aware of what they actually are. Right. Because all of these people that are crossing, they're all pawns in a they're your black pawns, they're your brown pawns, they're your Asian pawns. These are political pawns that the Democrat Party is using to push their nefarious agenda. And I think if things were put out there in different languages, people would realize what they are. And maybe people wouldn't want to come to the United States under false pretenses that they're being promised housing. They're being promised so many things, which regular Americans can't even have access to many of these things. And by them coming over here and some of them receiving these things, it's creating more division between Americans, immigrants that are documented, and immigrants that are undocumented. So you actually have three different fractions of people that are heavily divided because of these incentives that the United States government is offering all of these people globally to come here. And yeah, they need to put this information out, in multiple languages.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so, if when we're talking about, say Trump will say he's going to close the border. For me, I think that these people didn't come here for just to go jump ship and go back home. Do you think that they will be ones that would willingly decide to just go like, well, okay, I'll self-deport? Or do you think that they would fight more to stay here because that took them such a long time? It was such a journey, and they didn't leave just to go back. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it varies from person to person, because do I think the people came here for a better life, to work for it and not receive a handout? Yes, I do, because I've met many people that have, right? But I also know that there's a lot of people that cross the border because they're just horrible human beings, and they're here for bad reasons, and that's to harm those of us that are already here on this side of the border. Okay, that's a fact. Those people are not going to go willingly. And then you're going to have the everything in between. But I think, again, if people were just told the truth, I believe you would want to have, many of them will say, take me home, because you promised me so many things, America, the land of opportunities. And where do you see them now? In the streets, curled up, having to beg for money, having to go into a shelter, when a lot of these people crossed over here because whatever it is that they were reading, seeing online, oh, you come over here, we're going to give you this. And a lot of them are crossing over here realizing you're not getting shit. Your ass is out in the street like a homeless person. And now you're just an inconvenience to people. So do I think that people will go back? Absolutely. I think people will go back. I just think that things should be done in a peaceful manner. This whole rounding people up, it sounds horrible online, right? But I think if things were put that way, hey, you got a ticket back home, I think many people honestly would go back, because so many people were tricked into coming here. They were tricked.
Yeah, absolutely. Exploited to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Told the lies, and that's what I've told them many times, just meeting them, to just make them aware, and who's paying for it. And there are a lot of people who, don't have nefarious reasons. They actually want to pay taxes so that they can pay back what was given to them, or the opportunities. So it's interesting, but then you also find people that are, here for nefarious reasons, and that's why a lot of them will drop their documents, right? But so do you think that, I guess, what would you say the answer to stopping this is? Do you agree with, like, closing the border and doing a mass deportation? Like, what do you think would your answer be, like, as far as to help mitigate this?
I think, well, for starters, they do have to shut the border, because that's the only way that they're going to stop this trafficking. And I'm not saying that in a way to upset anyone or to hurt anyone's feelings, but at this point, no one's feelings should matter, because how many of these people do you think aren't on their knees praying to God, asking, why am I being trafficked? How many of these children that are God-loving, God-fearing children get on their knees and ask God, why did I come over here and now I'm being raped on a daily basis? No, they have to close the borders. How you go about it after, I have no clue. But Democrats and Republicans have to be on the same page. It's a bipartisan issue, but they're not treating it in a bipartisan way. The Democrats are, at this point, they're an evil party. They're an evil party. They're a bunch of liars. They deceive their constituents. But this is something that the politicians are going to have to figure out. I have no clue. The only thing that I know is that they have to shut that border down. And feelings don't matter, because the only people that matter are the people that are being trafficked at this point, because they're either, again, being sex trafficked, like a child. Okay, child crosses over, somebody buys it. They can have the child create porn. They can sell the child multiple times a day. And then they can have the child killed and harvest their organs. So it's very profitable. Right. And for a lot of the people that are saying open borders, they're profiting. Yeah. It's not because they care. They're profiting.
That's right.
How do you fix it, Audra? I have no idea, but they need to start by closing that border.
Yeah. So what else would you just like to leave with our audience as far as, how you feel about this, or, anything that you want to add?
Can I say it in Spanish?
Yeah.
That's your camera? Si ustedes están, yo no sé dónde están mirando esto, ¿verdad? Pero si están mirando esto, pongan atención a lo que les está diciendo la gente, porque mucha gente les están echando tantas mentiras para venir aquí a los Estados Unidos. Les están prometiendo que les van a dar casa, que les van a dar trabajo, que les van a dar dinero, y sabe que no le van a dar nada. Ustedes van a llegar aquí y van a tener problemas con la gente que ya viven aquí, porque la gente que viven aquí casi no pueden pagar su renta, casi no pueden comer, casi no pueden vivir ahorita en la manera y aquí en California es tan caro para vivir aquí, y ustedes están viniendo aquí en este estado que le están dando dinero. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué se están viniendo aquí cuando no tienen nada? Mucha gente les están prometiendo trabajos y ¿sabes qué? No les van a dar trabajos, los van a vender y los van a violar, hombres, mujeres y niños. So, si ustedes están mirando esto con mucho respeto a la gente, yo entiendo que viene la gente de diferentes países del mundo, pero uno también se debe dar cuenta. Ahorita, en la manera que se están cruzando la gente aquí en los Estados Unidos, es porque lo están traficando. Y a veces una de las gente, si no nomás lo van a traficar, va a ser para traficar para trabajar, porque les van a cobrar cierta cantidad cuando cruzan la frontera, y ya cuando penitas van a llegar a la frontera le van a decir tienes que darle más dinero, y ustedes no van a tener más dinero. ¿Sabes qué va a pasar? Los van a traficar porque no van a tener más dinero para darle a la gente que los va a cruzar. So, hay muchas cosas. Antes que se vengan aquí y si quieren cruzar, por favor, piénsenle bien duro. ¿Por qué van a cruzar aquí a los Estados Unidos? Porque a lo mejor les conviene nomás quedarse en sus casas. Y yo lo digo con mucho respeto, porque yo no quiero que nadie de ustedes, sus hijos o sus hijas, estén traficados aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Mama. Thank you, Patty. That was awesome. I appreciate you and what you're doing, and we'll have to go to the border soon. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mama.
I'm just so bummed that I came so late.
I know. It's okay, you're here, and here's the most important thing. All of it is filmed. Good afternoon. I'm Kim Yater.
And I'm Audra Morgan.
We are here at the Judiciary meeting, right? We're in Santee.
Yes.
This has been a really big day. The information that was presented in regards to the border is going to go now before Congress. This was a federal meeting. People were sworn in. It was a pretty big deal. And I am honored to be here with this rock star, Audra Morgan. Audra, I just absolutely love you. You know, you show up. You're such an example of boots on the ground. And no matter what's happening for you personally, you don't let that get in the way, because you have your eye on the big picture. You understand that we are in the midst of an invasion right now, and that we, the people, our power is being taken from us when the Constitution is there to support us, giving power back to the people for us to hold our elected officials accountable.
That's right.
So I just want to get your take today, Audra. First, I just love you. We get to work together. We take our elections back too.
Yes.
So give me the lowdown. You know, with the evidence that was presented today, you've seen a lot. You've been to a lot of these meetings. What's your take on this?
You know, I mean, the hope is that it actually makes some change, but I feel like sometimes it's more busy work to seem like something is being done. I think it's going to be telling as far as what happens moving forward. It's unfortunate that, you know, there were no Democrats here, so it wasn't a bipartisan event, but that was their choice, is to not show up, and I feel like we know why, is because they don't want to face the music and what's really happening, and if they don't come, then they can, you know, have plausible deniability, and this isn't really happening, and they look at it in a different view. But you know, the hope is that this can continue to happen. That I'm glad that they do field meetings and going out to the locations. But I feel like they could have also had a lot more people testifying that had other different information. I feel like I wanted the unaccompanied minors or UACs to be addressed more. That was actually the question I was going to ask Daryl Issa when they told us there were no more questions.
Break down UACs for us.
So it's unaccompanied children.
Okay,
and they are the ones that are being trafficked. They get lost. They've already had hundreds of thousands be lost. And I
Through
believe
the current Biden administration.
Correct. And, you know, it's something that all of this is a business. And so, you know, these children go to labor camps or, you know, just being used for traffic for labor. Then they're also trafficked for sex. And once they are done, you know, being used and abused, they do have their organs harvested. And so it's something that, like Patty was saying, you know, it's like many times a day. It's like, it's not like a drug where you can, it's a one time and you're done type of thing, right? It's a continual over and over, and it's upsetting that it's kind of like something that still I feel like gets brushed under the rug, because it's like we should be doing something about that immediately.
100%.
And I just don't feel like it's as hot of a topic as it should be. So
yeah. Well, it's not as hot as a topic because there's all these other squirrels surrounding it to keep our eyes off of the bigger issue.
Right.
The real issue is the children. They want our children. That's the real issue.
Yeah.
You know, there's a case I've been talking about today that just recently broke. I don't know if you got to see the live we just did, but it's all connected to this. The border is just a bleeding over of the bigger agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the case with Sean Taylor in Myersville, Tennessee, he is that assistant chief deputy who had his home ransacked, as well as the Myersville police department ransacked looking for evidence. They took their phones, they took their laptops, and within his own home, they didn't even have the proper, you know, warrant credentials to show him and give him. They left a trail of, I hate to say it, but piss in his tub and a trail through his house. Basically with the message, that's the message of we're going to piss on you, you continue to bring the truth into the light. So kudos to Myersville Police Department, support them, but they have been bringing to light all the trillions of dollars. The trillions of dollars, the fraud, the embezzlement, this money that they're getting and how they're getting it and how it's being paid off to elected officials, how they're creating the geopolitical shift in these states, how they're using the mortgage industry to take out loans for a $250,000 house for $60 million all throughout the country, funneling this money. And there's elected officials in your state, in our state right now, who are corrupt. So I say that because this is like a nice little, I mean, it's good that we did this event and it's great, but you and I are both like, if nothing's going to shift and we're just going to talk about it, like what's it going to take to give power back to the people and protect the children?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think starting to acknowledge it, and they refuse to. But if you think about it, HHS is, you know, Health and Human Services are trafficking our own American children, and they have been for years through CPS, foster care, and of the like. So this is a business that happens whether or not these children are crossing the border. You know, it's happening. I mean, and it's not meant to bring families back together, and that's a problem. It's I think about the 2,000 children, I know this is going off on something else, but the 2,000 plus or whatever children that were in the convention center in 2021, and within a month, they said, we found their sponsors. And it's like, there's no way
In a month, they
that in that
found
amount
you.
of time, thousands of
Yeah.
children, you would find their sponsor, and they're like, they're off to going to wherever they need to go. And it's funny, they moved out homeless people from the convention center to bring these children in. And then a month later, you know, we're starting up business again because it was during the whole COVID time.
Yeah.
And so it's just very disturbing to see stuff like that, but it continues to get brushed under the rug. So I think it's important for us
Yes.
to bring this to light.
Yes.
That's
And
our job.
I like to say, like, we're bringing the real news to people.
Yes.
Right? Because what just happened, like going back to the children in Myersville, that case, there was a case of 70 children that had been trafficked, okay? Now, they had all the evidence of where the corruption was coming from, who was trafficking, who was connected. They were about to expose it. Channel 5 goes on intentionally, Phil Williams in Tennessee, to flip it around and make all of these officials that were going to expose it, making them look like they were conspiracy theorists. They just did a hit piece on me and on the Sean Taylor just recently. So why would you not want to rescue these 70 children who are being trafficked?
Well, unless you're complicit in it.
Unless you're complicit in it. And that's the bigger issue
Yeah.
here. So here we are in California, sanctuary state. Okay? We have a major border issue.
Yeah.
If you look at the map and you look at where these illegal immigrants have come in, the biggest blob right here in Southern California. Okay? So what are we going to do? Like, what can we, the people, do with that?
Well, I mean, we should have a militia. That's the problem, is that they've demonized it.
Ooh,
But
that's
it's
the dirty word.
I know.
So this is a tough one. Let's just preface that.
Yeah.
The Constitution, your Constitution, my Constitution, our Constitution calls for a constitutional militia.
Right.
Now, I just want to preface that I am not involved in a constitutional militia. What I am involved in is neighborhood watches and protection groups so that we can shore up our community using principles like that.
Yeah.
But go on.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's going to be the Constitution that we have to stand on. But I feel, you know, it's the people that need to get together and quit allowing this. That's the problem, is that we allow it by our acquiescence and just denial or willful ignorance of what's going on because it's too hard to hear. I don't want to go there. It's too much. And that's where we need to be, in that too much realm.
Yeah.
And just really face what's happening and stand together and, you know, literally be exposing all of this to, you know, the people that represent us. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's going to come to, you know, something major happening in order for people to see. I don't want that to be the case.
And we would think that would happen with Rachel Morin, Mama
Yeah.
5, running on a track, brutally raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant from Ecuador,
Right.
who was finally apprehended 10 months later after another altercation in LA. You would think that that one thing, and that's one
enough.
of many, would be enough. But what is it going to take to really wake up the people? It's funny because when I think of, if we the people have power, Satan's goal is for us to feel powerless
That's right.
and in bondage. And do you know how many Americans have been molested, have been raped? And because when we have our own junk in the trunk, and I get it, guys, because of what I've gone through, right?
Same.
So, right, we know. But if we don't deal with our own junk in the trunk, we're not going to be a stand for these children. So we got to start dealing with our own junk in the trunk, and maybe, just maybe, start standing for those children for the way that people didn't stand for us when we were younger. But maybe be that stand. Maybe that's one of the ways we
Yes.
can take our power back.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be standing in the gap for the voiceless.
Oh, so well said.
You know?
Yeah.
So, well, this has been fun. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so where can people reach you, Audrey?
Okay, you can reach me on X. I'm Eye of the Storm SD. You can also find me on Rumble, Eye of the Storm. That's my channel. You can go to, what? San Diego Live Data
San
as
Diego
well.
Live Data has
Yes.
our back end. We're so grateful.
But it's SDLD on X. But you can go to San Diego Live Data at gmail.com to reach out. And, you know, if you have any tips, please reach out to us and let us know about anything that you think is important to cover.
Yeah,
And what about
absolutely.
you?
Yeah, so you can go to We the People at takeourborderback.com. Like Audra said, you guys have questions, you have information to share. We the People at takeourborderback.com. You can look at my shirt. I want you also to go to takeourborderback.com. We have a huge event coming up. We're weeks away from the Take Our Border Back North America Alliance. We have aligned with Canada as sovereign nations. So we're meeting on the Rainbow Bridge. So not only are we taking our border back, we're taking the rainbow back because that's God's promise to us. You can also find me on the Take Your Power Back show. We are on Rumble, also Twitter at Real Kim Yater. And with that being said, Audra, I am so excited for what's next because we are going to continue to stand. We're going to continue to bring real news. We're going to continue to hold up your arms, we the people. We are here with you and we want your voice to be heard.
Yep. So God bless everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It was definitely eventful.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.